Hello, and welcome to Midnight Metal. Robin Meyer Burnett and Dave Parker, they're fucking metal. Midnight Metal, Midnight Metal, Midnight Metal.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Welcome to Midnight Metal episode 90. I hope you're all feeling metal tonight. I know you are. You always are when you come to this show. Thing is, I've got some news. Sad news. I know a lot of you are not going to take this well. And I honestly don't know. It's probably a long time coming. I don't know how it happened, but Dave Parker is no longer a part of Midnight Metal. Frankly, I fired the fucker. Out. He's out the door. He's out of the family, kind of like Tom Hagen in The Godfather. He's gone. He's out. And he's out. I just got tired of it. I mean, everything. He's the saddest guy ever. You know, saddest man. All he did was cry and bitch and moan and complain. My life is so terrible. Why aren't I one of the top horror directors in the world? Why does everybody else get success? I've been listening to him bitch and moan and complain since we worked together at Full Moon in the early 90s. I mean, he's a handsome guy. He's barely aged in 30 years. But still, there's so much morose bullshit that I can listen to. So I finally just said, Dave, not only are you fired from Midnight Metal, we're just not friends. We're not friends anymore. Go find your bliss. Go to do that City Slicker thing. Go find your smile, buddy. So he's gone. He's gone. There's no more Dave Parker. But you know what I had to do? I can't do this show by myself. And if you watched our recent show, you've seen this gentleman before. He's one of the stalwart members of the LA horror community. He's a singer. He's a filmmaker. I just, as a matter of fact, watched a film he's been working on that he himself directed. That's rather impressive, I do have to say. You've seen it on the show before. Mr. Sean Decker. Sean! Welcome to Midnight Metal. You're my new co-host. Do you have any thoughts on Dave Parker's demise? I mean, you've been a fan of Parker for a long time.
He passed away?
I'm pardon me. He did not pass away. He did not pass away. Right. He actually went to he got his passport and he went to a foreign country. I told him to go find his smile, to City Slicker that bitch, and he's out there doing something to make him happy.
I mean, I'm happy to be here to talk to you tonight. I'm going to personally miss Dave. I love Dave. Dave's the man. Directed one of my favorite slasher films ever, The Hills Run Red.
I'm very familiar.
I know. I think maybe you produced that.
That's when Dave and we had a great relationship. You know?
I'm hoping that the two of you can rekindle that at some point.
Maybe. I mean, he's like in some foreign country doing something with something. I don't know. But it's great.
From what I hear, he's he may be in the EU doing some amazing things with some amazing people. So yeah,
I've heard that, but I can't imagine they'd put up with him for very long either.
You are harsh. Sir. You are harsh. I love Dave.
No,
you're just giving him like East Coast love right now.
It's true. It's like Biggie and Tupac all over again. It's happening.
I don't know if it's Biggie. That's a whole. That was not that kind of East. That's an East West Coast thing, man. I was just saying like.
No, I still love Dave. I kid, Dave. I kid. But no, in all honesty, you've been a producer. You've done a lot of really interesting stuff. You've been doing some publicity work, and you made me aware of, I think a lot of fans were aware of, I think one of the new rages, all the rage, is things that are slipping into the public domain. And filmmakers, we saw Winnie the Pooh. There's going to be the Steamboat Willie version of Mickey Mouse is going into the public domain. But you kind of are attached to something that is also, is it sliding into the public domain like within the next week or two?
It is. Robert Ryan's Popeye the Slayer Man hitting theaters and VOD on March 21st.
Okay. Yeah. And you are married to a very lovely lady, And I guess would that make you guys? There's a lot. The first couple of horror maybe in LA. Would you?
Yeah, Sarah Nicklin, my wife. It's always weird to say my wife at this point too. I just feel like we've always been, ever since we met, we were inseparable. But I always thought it was way more sexy to say fiance. Does that make sense?
Fiance. Well, yeah, you can say fiance.
I was like, fiance is sexy, and then you're like wife. But there has been no change. That's always been the question with people. Are like, after we got married, like, how's married life? And we're like, it's exactly as it was prior. Taxes are a bit different.
Yes.
But, Sarah has some part of Popeye the Slayer Man. I'm sure she'll want to talk about that. I'm certainly not going to speak for her in regards to that film. But yeah, it went, we announced that movie in November of last year. And, there was 2 other Popeye movies coming out as well, of which, I won't mention because, sorry, guys, they don't matter. And it just kind of went viral. And I think it was, the right timing. And certainly the trailer is, as we'll see, really caught, the public's eye and really kind of hit the zeitgeist at that moment, which I thought was really, really kind of cool. Specifically, even the fact that, I don't know, Rob, you can agree we're maybe living in some questionable dark days. So to have, kind of a film that is tongue in cheek and, knows what it is, but wants to deliver some, 80s slasher vibes. I think the public was primed for it. I know I certainly lean towards horror comedies myself often. I mean, I can go dark and watch all the French extremism. I love that shit.
Me too.
Generally, if somebody's like, do you want to watch Martyrs or Monster Squad? And I'm like, Monster Squad.
Yeah.
Hands down. Like, sign me up.
Yeah, I don't, it's funny. I love Martyrs and I own it. And I wish Second Sight put it out in 4K, the last one. They did everything else. But you can't, I don't watch, Martyrs does not have a lot of rewatchability for me. But Monster Squad,
yeah,
Wolfman's got nards.
It's like, I respect Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw. I mean, it is the grandfather of arguably of all modern horror films, and I love that film and I revere that film.
Well, it's brilliant. It's a masterpiece.
It absolutely is. But do I ever just on a Sunday be like, you know what I want to throw in right now? Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I'm like, no, I just don't, because I feel like I have to take a shower after watching it, which is its power. But I'd much rather watch Monster Squad. So.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but it's funny because I saw one of the things I really like about Popeye the Slayer Man is the design of Popeye. I guess I mean the prosthetics. I think to turn Popeye the Sailor Man. I mean, he was already kind of scary, with his face and his forearms and
a little, yeah.
But I do like the design, and I watched the trailer, and I was. How do you feel? Like we're living through an interesting period in horror right now because look, the Terrifier franchise, Terrifier 3, did a lot of business, and a lot of these horror films, whether it's a $4.5 million movie like Barbarian that grosses $40 million, or the Smile franchise did very well for Paramount. How do you feel about the state of cinematic horror now in 2025?
I mean, I think horror unto itself is very reflective of the culture that we're living in. So I'll be interested to see what happens within that space, this year, next year.
Yeah.
I mean, like we go back to the 80s and, we're within the American culture and we're able to look at some like really, really great punk rock and some really, really great punk rock horror films. And that was certainly reflective of, our political stance at that time. And you go back to the 70s in England and you could see the same thing, specifically in the music side. Right now, though, outside of that, I think it seems like there's a lot of experimentation. And it seems like those that can even get a film made, which, that's a whole other conversation.
Very difficult.
We used to have like some kind of mid-range indies, and now we really don't. Now somebody might be like, oh, it's an indie film, but it costs $3 million. And that's not really an indie film, even
right.
If it's out of the studio, system. That said, I'm still seeing stuff that I'm like, this is cool. It's, new voices, applying their craft and taking chances. I mean, whether that was, The Substance, which was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, who saw that coming, and who saw the last 20 minutes of that movie coming, and who saw that movie being nominated for, Academy Awards?
Unbelievable.
Which is just, it was so good. It's so good for the genre. So yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff happening out there right now. We'll see. I mean, I certainly, can't forecast.
I mean, I like the guys who made Talk to Me. Their trailer, the name escapes me, but their new trailer looks great. And then It Follows has a sequel coming that they just released the one sheet for. And I think it's called They Follow, and they're everywhere now. And
I'm kind of good. I'm good.
But I mean,
this is why, all those years that I spent as a horror journalist, whether that be at, Fangoria or Horror Online or FearNet, whatever, I never wanted to review films.
Right.
I've never wanted to tear down somebody's art. Whether if I didn't like it and it didn't resonate with me, then that's fine. I'm just one person, but I didn't want to sit there and say this, this piece of art, this creation is not good, just because it didn't resonate with me. So I hate to say really, anything negative.
No, but I mean,
for me personally, It Follows. I thought it was cool. I didn't understand the groundswell craziness around it. Just for me personally, I was like, okay. I thought it was shot very well.
Yeah, certainly. I guess I use it like I thought the first half was quite effective, and then It was clear they didn't know what was happening, and I was kind of like I love the intellectual idea of what is this horror, like where does it come from, and I need to have some kind of a look. And what I mean is, like, I get Freddy Krueger. They gave me enough that he's in your dreams, but they did set up rules for how that kind of works. They broke them, but with It Follows, I thought it was really intriguing. But then halfway through the movie, they didn't know what their rules were, and it went all over the place. But I mean, I did
that happens a lot. But
I did appreciate the effort. I mean, like you said, it was really well shot, and I went and saw it. It was cool to me because I saw it theatrically. And the same was true of Talk to Me, what I found really interesting about the guys who made Talk to Me is that they were, they cut their teeth making internet content. And what's fascinating to me is like a guy like Sean Baker, who just won multiple Oscars for Nora.
I've been a huge fan of Baker's, and I'll let you continue.
All the way back to Tangerine.
All the way back to Tangerine.
And that guy loves cinema. And his first feature he made with 2 iPhones. And what I don't understand is where are the same way we had garage bands and people were starting rock bands growing up. Why don't we have a deluge of movies being made with all of this technology? Where's the new wave of horror directors that are making features?
They are being made. I mean, I think certainly with all this technology, it's leveled the playing field. Anybody that actually really wants to go out and shoot can go shoot and can learn during the process and hone their skills and hopefully become a better filmmaker. And I mean, I think for me, and that creative community of things. And I think, people that find that voice, they find the fact that they have that technology now and nobody's saying you can't do it, you can't afford it. It's there. You can go, to your point, you can go shoot it on your iPhone.
Right.
If you'd like. Our business, which we can talk about that later. But I mean, I think just as true artists that really want to go out and shoot, they can go do that now. And I really hope that happens. I really encourage.
I do too.
That's the thing that excites me is just seeing, a writer director's work, an actor's work, whatever, people I've never seen before, and just going down that journey with them.
So what can you tell us about Popeye the Slayer Man? Does that come out of how did the Popeye the Slayer Man project come about? And should we wait and play the trailer?
Yeah, I think we should probably, have Sarah Nicklin, who stars in Popeye the Slayer Man, talk about that because she's well more equipped than I am.
Can she come on? I'm ready for her.
I mean, you're running the show there. You fired Dave Parker. You're the host. I mean, when do you want your guests coming on? Come on, Rob.
She can come on whenever she wants. Is she going to come on with you?
Steer this ship.
Well, is she going to log on separately?
Yes.
Okay, she
Yes.
can log on whenever she wants.
Okay.
She's available. And I will put her into the show. And I will introduce her. Now, give us a little preamble about Sarah. You probably know her better than, of course, most people. Tell us
about Sarah.
Yeah, man. I mean, you guys met seeing Robert Eggers, or you didn't meet? Or was that your first date seeing The Witch?
That was our first date.
What a great first date. A girl would go see The Witch with you. Did you know that she was yours at that point?
I knew who she was. We'd crossed paths, and just in the LA horror community scene, like at a film festival once or twice. And we all have our own personal journeys. And I think, at some point I was certainly enamored with her, having not even really known her, and not even really having seen a lot of her work. She just has a presence, and a stillness and an intelligence about her that I found, very interesting. And I think, our relationship took a while, in the sense that we were both just measured adults at that point in our lives.
Not a lot of people like that in LA.
No, and we weren't rushing into
I'm still waiting to become one.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were both, we were just at that place in our lives where we were very, aware of who we were individually and what we wanted, and what, how a partner needed to fit in that or not fit into that. You just, in regards to what we'd allow in our lives, but no, it just it organically grew, and no, she's one of the most kind, intelligent, driven, talented people I know. So I'm very, very lucky to, have her be the better half of this relationship.
Well, since she is in your house, you're in the same house.
Well, it's our house.
It's a very, very, very fine house. Why don't we bring on Sarah? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Sarah Nicklin, welcome to Midnight Metal. First of all, I got to ask you the question we ask everybody. Are you feeling fucking metal tonight? Are you feeling metal, Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Always metal.
That always metal. So it's great to have you. You have been on the show before. Normally, this is pretty much a sausage fest, so thanks for coming on. Now,
I'll spice it up a little for you guys.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
We like that. We like that. It's a metal show with no ladies. I mean, how metal is that?
There's a lot of ladies in metal.
There's a lot of ladies in metal. My first girlfriend in LA was a lead singer of an all-girl metal band.
That's amazing.
Her name was Bunny.
My favorite band was Kitty when I was in high school for like a long time. All-girl metal band.
Wow. So let me ask you a little bit about your background. Tell us your origin story. Where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Connecticut. Danbury, Connecticut, and then we moved to Ridgefield when I went to high school. So parents, sold the house, transitioned, and I started acting in middle school because I was absolutely in love with and infatuated with Jonathan Taylor Thomas, the child actor.
Of course you were.
Of course. Who wasn't? I was a teenage girl, preteen girl. Come on. And I just figured in, my little teenage brain that, all famous actors know each other. So I'll just become a big famous actress. No problem. And then we'll obviously meet and fall in love and, all that stuff.
How'd that work out for you? Did you ever meet him?
No. Did not work out. So I started doing plays as soon as I could in middle school, and I was really shy, like really, really shy. The very first play I did was Bye Bye Birdie, and
wow.
I hated it. I hated being on stage. I hated being looked at, being the attention, hated it. The role that I got cast in was actually the shy girl in the play, because I was able to sit on the side of the stage and not look at anyone. So it worked out well.
Wow, but you really did start young. I mean, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So you started doing, now did it carry you through high school, and did you go to college and continue to study acting?
Yeah, exactly. So I then continued to do plays in high school. I went to Emerson College. I got a degree
Wow.
in theater with an emphasis in performance. It was it's a small conservatory program, so they only accept 90 students a year. So you had to audition to get in and like all that sort of stuff. And the reason I chose that school is because they were one of the only colleges that had an acting for the camera class. Most
Wow.
college programs were theater focused, which is great. You still need all of that stuff. But I always knew that I wanted to be on camera, so I wanted to find a place where I could learn how to do that.
I've met more people in the entertainment business that went to Emerson College than any other place.
Yes.
Uh,
It's
I,
like the pledge for the entertainment business.
I mean, more. I was at USC, and I've met way more people from Emerson College in the business than I've met. I mean, people from USC tended to go become agents or producers, but people at Emerson, they were all working professionals in various.
Yeah.
That's amazing, and I didn't
Yeah.
realize that the same held true for acting. So when
Yeah.
did you find yourself emigrating west to Los Angeles?
Well, so when I went to school, I figured since I'm here in Boston, there has to be some film scene. I'm in a big city now. There has to be something happening. So I was like, well, why wait to start working to do what I'm in school to do? Let me try to start doing it now. So I started working in independent films in Boston and New England, and I did a whole bunch of those. I racked up like 50 credits. Between short films and features. And then I decided to move to Los Angeles because then at that point I had a resume, I had a demo reel, I had some idea of what I was doing.
Sure. Well, let me ask you this. The first, what was it like getting that first movie? What was your first role that you booked in a film?
This is actually a good story. My very first role was a short film called La Bolsa. And it's about a group of thieves that have committed a heist, and you don't know what they have stolen. And then at the end of the short film, it's revealed that they all are missing. They have some sort of ailment, and they have stolen like body parts or eyeballs or plasma to like
Cool.
complete themselves. But the cool part about this is that it was directed by Jason Miller, who later ended up working with Adam Green on the Hatchet movies.
Wow. You know, I wonder if Dave Parker could ever work with Adam Green. I don't know.
I wonder.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't think they like each other at all.
Yeah, You know, he probably knows how morose Dave Parker can be too. So now I'm going to bring all three of you now. Now both of you, we're all three here together. So you came out to LA. What was the experience like for you? You know, a lot of people, it's an old story. People come to LA, they want to there's no more soda fountains to get discovered at anymore. But when you came to LA, what was it like navigating, I guess call it the LA scene? Like when did you arrive here? And, you know, for me, when I was younger, like the 90s were big for me in terms of starting my career. And the LA, it was very sceney. You know, you were all going out all the time, but you would always run into people. It seemed like because we were making music videos, we were making videos for bands on Sunset Boulevard. We would do anything. Anybody would do anything, and everybody kind of helped everybody else out. If you could make a low budget, I mean, I remember when Swingers came out, it was, you know, $250,000 movie or something. That's where Favreau and Vince Vaughn got started, and Doug Liman, and it seemed like everything was possible back then. Did you find that? Was it like that for you when you finally got to LA?
No. It's never felt like that.
Certainly doesn't feel like that now.
No. So I moved down here in 2011. And I was lucky enough that with the work that I had done with the independent films in New England, that I had built up a bit of a following there, and several of those films had gotten distribution. And working in horror, and that horror is such like a loyal community, that there were people out here who knew who I was from the work that I had done there. So I did have a little bit of like a landing pad.
That was nice.
Of some people that I could start working with, like for example, Michael Varrati, he directed the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards.
Right. He's a great guy.
Great guy.
He's a great guy.
He had written some feature films that I had worked on in New England with the director there, Richard Griffin, that I was working with all the time. So like we knew who each other was, never met until I moved out here, but that was already like a connection.
That's good. That's cool.
So there were some things like that to give me like a little bit of a springboard. So I did get to at least start working a little bit like through those connections. But aside from that, I feel like it's all just been trial and error and a lot of error and a lot of beating your head against the wall and beating the pavement and trying to push the boulder up the mountain and trying and feeling like you are have a tsunami that's pushing you back all the time that you're trying to push against.
But you did get a lot of experience, which is great. I mean, having that, I think there is a lifeline, or there's a pretty great support group amongst the LA horror crowd, or the horror crowd in general. I found that, every place in the film business can have your backbiting. People have problems with everybody else, but the thing about the horror community is everybody's always excited about something. We might be getting kicked in the teeth all the time, but there's always, I saw somebody sent me a picture of Timmy Nolan's, where our little horror group would meet every Thursday night. Yeah. Now it's all boarded up. It's truly gone. I don't know if it's going to get torn down, but I always felt like I could go meet, whether it was Darren Scott or whether it was Spooky Dan or whether it was Parker, we would always go hang out. And no matter how bad your week was, you had the LA horror crowd, or if Joe Bishara threw a party or something like that, there was always something to do. There was always some place to go.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
don't think it has either.
Those bonds have gotten, I can go back within that horror community, and I love all of those people. But there was, with some of them, and I can say this about myself, there was a competitive edge.
Very much so.
In certain capacities, if I go back 15 years. But I can look at examine those same relationships now 15 years later, and really that competitive edge has been really, really replaced in most ways by just being a very supportive element from all parties involved. And that's, I think that's just part of getting a little, maybe a little wiser over time. But, it's really, for me, we always laugh about the LA horror community being like collegiate, because we always seem to meet up, and it's the same crew, and it's always for, a good it's always for somebody's birthday, or it's always to celebrate the release of somebody's film, or it's just to get together to hang out.
Yeah.
And those relationships have really evolved outside of the business aspect of it into that, and plus more of a personal one. So I'm very thankful for all of that, and also to your point, Rob, like things are, it's a very, very difficult business, and it's not getting any easier.
No.
So to have people that understand where you've been, because we've all been there together, you're on shorthand and you're able to be there as a support system to each other. I think that keeps people going in some dark days, because I'm quite sure there are days we've all had where we're like, why are we still doing this?
Yeah. I could be doing anything and have a better life.
Right. But
anywhere else.
Financial security, healthcare.
Financial security? What's that?
Yes. Cleaner air, less congestion, the list goes on. But, as we talked about earlier today, if you're a storyteller, that chose you. You didn't choose it.
Right.
And you're never going to be happy doing something else. You can never really shut down that creative voice. So, it's a thing about balance. Sarah spoke about trying to push against the tsunami, of just moving forward. And she does that every day. I see that every day. And I just have mad respect for her because she loves to work on her craft. Number one, it's not just about the business side. She truly enjoys acting and truly enjoys working on that craft, when she's not in front of the camera.
Well, it's a lifelong avocation from the time you were young.
She's completely committed, and I find it really inspirational just to be around that type of drive, because I've always had it too. And I mean, that's not within the acting, but within writing, etc. And to have somebody in my life that supports me as much as I support her, and there's not any craziness going on, like, oh, well, why are you doing this? And we should be doing that. We're both very aware of, trying to find that life work balance. But no, she's absolutely inspirational and in it for all the right reasons. And so,
look at you too. You too love birds.
Also, she's incapable. Here's no longer a secret, since this is on the internet. Incapable of taking a compliment.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. Try it, Rob. Try it.
Sarah, you're really adorable. I mean, I look at you. Look at how adorable you are. That lovely smile. You're so perky and fun looking. Come on.
See? I told you.
Okay. Let's get down to. We're going to get to, because Sean, you're doing some cool stuff in the filmmaking space too. But we have Popeye the Slayer Man coming out, and I'm fascinated by all of these people are jumping on these IPs that are going into the public domain, and the horror community usually, again, I mean, they always told me that porn were the first adopters, of new technologies to utilize them. But horror was always coming up on biting at the heels of the porn industry. But now we've already seen the Winnie the Pooh. Now they're making a Winnie the Pooh verse, horror verse. We've seen that. And the Mickey Mouse, the Steamboat Willie thing, somebody's doing stuff with that. So now we have Popeye the Slayer Man. Mm-hmm. And the trailer went viral. Tell us.
I mean, it did. That landed on Drudge Report.
I know.
CBS Morning News, like radio stations nationwide.
Yeah.
And the press train was amazing, and continues to be on this movie. Again, I think it has a lot to do with the quality of the trailer and the content that people have seen thus far. And let's face it, Popeye the Slayer Man is such a great title.
That's the title of the year. Title of the year.
Right.
And
I mean, it's Popeye the Slayer Man. He is what he is.
He is what he is. I mean, again, it's. So, should we show this trailer?
Yeah, let's show the trailer.
Let's show the trailer so people know. For those of you who haven't known, the trailer's out there, but we're going to play it. Please don't demonetize me. Here's the trailer.
Believe in ghost
there we go.
Stories.
He's not a ghost. The Sailor Man is real. He doesn't take kindly to visitors stopping at his doorstep.
If she's just doing some school project, then why won't she just pick the phone up?
Oh yeah? What should I do?
She said they're going to be at the old candy factory, right? Let's go down there.
Do you know why the factory closed down 20 years ago? There was a spinach contamination.
We're a monster!
I am what I am.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with this film?
So I was texting with my friend Kyle, who I did a movie with back in Connecticut before I moved to LA. And we were just catching up, getting tips on visiting Salem, Massachusetts, because he's been there a bunch.
Cool.
And,
cool.
He was like, well, I'm going to be doing another movie with Jeff and Robert, who he's done several films with in upstate New York in the spring. I was like, oh, coincidentally, I'm going to be working on another movie in New Hampshire around that same time. Maybe like we could get together and hang out. And he was like, well, actually, there's some roles we haven't filled in our movie yet. I was like, oh, you don't say. So he was like, yeah, let me talk to Jeff and Robert about, putting you in it. And they were both on board, and the schedules worked out. I did the first movie for about 2 weeks. And then I visited with my parents, because my parents still live in New England, for about a week. And then I went over and I did Popeye the Slayer Man.
How do your folks feel about that?
I don't think they really get it. They're not.
Not horror fans?
They're not horror fans.
No, they're not horror fans.
No. They watch their NCIS and Law and Order and
Sure.
all CSI and like all those sorts of things. But yeah, they're not really in the horror realm. So, but I think they're happy that I'm pursuing what I love.
Well, that's good. That's good to have parents like that. So, are they going to see Popeye the Slayer Man? You're going to make them? Would you make them watch your work?
I don't think they will.
I don't think they will. Maybe it's just so. Maybe we can just send them like the clip of like the opening, like that'll. That'll be
we'll just send them that.
No,
because they're not good with the gore.
Oh yeah, well that doesn't. It looks like what I found interesting is like in the wake of I was talking to Sean about this earlier, but like the Terrifier movies have sort of primed the pump now for this kind of thing, and they've done very well theatrically. So with Popeye the Slayer Man coming out now, it comes out. You said the 21st. Is it 21st?
Yeah,
21st. So it is going to be in theaters. Is it going to be like in the Burbank 16?
It's in select theaters and on VOD. So you'll be able to watch it, with a crowd or at home. I mean, I like with these type of films and just with horror in general, and I'm sure Rob, you probably agree. It's just such a movie going experience generally. Like specifically when it comes to like the slasher genre, I want to see those movies with an audience. And and if that audience has all had 2 beers before they even got into the theater, it's even better, right?
My favorite movie-going experience, I think, that of all time was Friday the 13th 3D opening night. It was the single. I went and saw it at an urban theater, and the audience participation was the most amazing, most incredible experience I've ever had in a movie theater, and I will never forget it.
I think my most raucous experience ever in a movie theater was the R-rated revival screening at Beyond Fest of Tammy and the T-Rex, and it was a midnight screening, and that crowd was wild. It was so much fun, and that movie's just bonkers, Yeah,
it's
like
so.
Like, I'm like, what? Paul Walker got turned into an animatronic T-Rex. Wait, what just happened in this movie?
Yeah, we don't. I went and saw Companion. I just saw Companion recently, which
I see that.
It's great. It's great, and I go in there opening night and in a huge theater, and there was 5 of us in the theater. And I had read the script, and I thought the script was great. And I thought the movie was a banger, and it reminded me of going to see like a New Line movie like The Hidden. When I went and saw The Hidden in like 88 or 89, that New Line put it out. It was not a hugely expensive movie, but I mean, The Hidden is really a movie about an evil alien that wants to be president of the United States. He wants to drive Ferraris and listen to rock and roll. That's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And so the alien antagonist is the audience. And I thought Jack Shoulder, who had done Nightmare 2, made that film. And I remember seeing it it was a packed house in I want to say I saw it in Westwood. Packed house. And the audience loved every minute of it. And people would turn out and go. And I was so disappointed. But when Companion was over, the 5 people in the theater, we all stood outside the theater, total strangers, and we just talked about how great that movie was, and I figured that's what horror does, because one, it puts a smile on everyone's face. Everyone likes to have that experience, and the 5 of us all had something in common in that we had gone to the theater to see that movie. Right. And now I think we're seeing, like with Terrifier, knowing what some people have experienced, you're now seeing audiences turn out for. Look, it might be gimmicky. Popeye the Slayer Man might be a gimmicky thing, but everyone knows this going in. No one is expecting to watch like Zulawski's Possession. They know that.
No, I mean, the filmmakers definitely took care in crafting in this. Certainly, it wasn't a cash grab at all. But at the same point, I think everybody involved really had their tongue in cheek. Even if it's their grounded, earnest performances, I think it just overall everybody was like, "This is Popeye the Slayer Man," and let's do something really, really interesting with that IP. I think there's some surprising things in the movie.
They give more to it than just another public domain movie. It's more than just a stupid slasher. There's a unique undertone twist that's a little reminiscent of like the old Universal monster movies, which I think you're not going to see coming, which I think is really going to separate it from a lot of the other films that are just kind of goofy.
I really like the design of Popeye. I think that the face and the forearms and everything, I really think it's that it still looks indelibly like Popeye, but they've made him monstrous as well. Mm-hmm. And I think they did a really, really good job. And I think that was, I wouldn't say the same thing about, say, the Winnie the Pooh movies.
Rob, you are gonna just have all the ITN fans like destroying your comments now. You realize that, right?
Well, look, I'm used to it,
which is okay. I mean, it's funny because a lot of these companies, or these producers that are producing, this content are very, very competitive with each other.
Yes,
which I find funny because, for obvious reasons, but some of them are very, very serious in their competitiveness, and I'm like, you're making a Mickey Mouse movie gone bad. Like, just enjoy it. And if somebody else is making a Mickey Rat movie gone bad, sure, enjoy that too. I don't know.
Hey, nobody's more angry about movies than the people that love Zack Snyder's Man of Steel and what they're. So and I wade into those waters way too deep. But
I generally don't engage as much as I possibly can. But I mean, I think, going back to Terrifier, I mean, I think your point is, to your point, there's a lot of people that have nostalgia for, 80s practical effects slasher movies that they weren't alive for at that time.
Right.
So, this is their generation of that. And I think a lot of us who did grow up with those films really enjoy going back to see, practical effects. Sometimes the harder, the better. I saw all the Terrifier movies and I was like, yay, practical effects.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Cool. I'm like, give me that, and David's performance as art is amazing. So, there's definitely stuff in there. So, yeah, I mean, I think, going even back to earlier our conversation, you're like, well, I think we were having that today in regards to this afternoon, in regards to the indie scene and what people are producing. And, I feel like we're definitely seeing at least some filmmakers turn that direction. And even on a bigger, on a larger level. Like I just watched Borderline last night with Samara Weaving and Jack Nicholson's son. No, I can't remember his name, but he's great. It just looks like Jack Nicholson. He's young. I don't know. And that movie, it's a horror comedy. I loved it. It's wry. It's sarcastic. It's funny. It's goes on an emotional journey, certainly, but like even the soundtrack of that movie is very peppered with early 90s bangers,
right?
Again, like we're having this big moment of nostalgia for the 90s. Those of us who lived through it and watched all of those films that we loved in the 90s, whether it be Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, or Scream, or The Crow, or the list goes on.
Oh yeah, totally.
And to all the people that didn't grow up during that time, and they're consuming Scream number, I don't know at this point. What?
Yeah, 7. I think they're making 7.
Right. So I mean, like, there's something for everybody, and I hope with the horror community, the horror fandom. And this is just my outside of Popeye, outside of any of that stuff. My own personal hope is that we can stop being a lot less toxic. I think that really happened. The internet, and that armchair warrior vibe really created that. But I can remember going back to like the early 90s when I first started going to Fangoria horror conventions.
Yeah.
And everybody was great. And we were all just so happy.
Uh-oh, hold on for a second.
Now there's a horror convention every week. But like back then, it was such a special thing. We were able to meet our tribe. This kind of goes back to, your inception, Rob, with, the LA filmmaking scene in the 90s and certainly Sarah's and on the East Coast.
That's translated. People you work with on the East Coast translated to the West Coast.
Translated to the West Coast.
Same
Absolutely.
horror, the same horror community, and people of, and I do look. I find it's hard to explain to people though that in filmmaking, when you find people that you like, people always say it's not just what you know, it's who you know. But when you're making,
or better yet, who knows you? Yeah,
who knows you? And movie making is so difficult, but people don't understand how social movie making is. You're a movie set is one of the most, other than being at a party, a movie set is very social. Everybody, it's an ongoing conversation all day long while you're working. And that's one of the things that you need to be somebody that people want to hang out with, in addition to being a talented actor.
Yeah, I always say that who you are as a person is just as, if not more important than your acting ability. People are going to hire you just because they like you.
Yeah.
As long as you're like passable, people will hire you if they really like you and they want you to be there and for you to be on their set. If you're reliable, you're professional, you show up, you know your lines, you don't complain, you cause no problems, you're on time, like all of that stuff is so, so, so important, especially on indie movies where the budget is so tight, the time is so tight. You're constantly racing the clock. You have less than you need to do these wonderful dreams that you have. And if one person comes to set and is an hour late, it throws off the entire day. If one person has a bad attitude, pisses someone off, throws off the entire day. And that can make or break a film.
Yes.
On indie production. Like it really, really can. So not only do you need to be good at your craft, but then you need to do all of these other things, to be a professional in order to be working in this industry. And that's where like the whole networking aspect of it comes into play. Because a lot of I would say the majority of the work that I have done is not something that I auditioned for. It's something where I met people and they liked me and maybe I sent them a demo reel and they're like, great, you're hired.
Yeah.
They like you. They want to work with you. They believe that you can do the job. And that's it.
And if they've seen your work, I mean, my own experience with the audio drama that I've been working on, I just work with my supervising producer, and she also cast the movie. I just told her, I want this person, I want this person, I want this person. Like Bill Sadler, who we work with on Hills Run Red. Yeah. I knew that I wanted to have him in this, and there was an absolutely perfect role for him. And there was, it's great. You just call up the agent and say, we would like to hire this person. The agent is fine. It's free money for him. He doesn't have to hurt. They don't have to do any work. But I think that happens a lot. And I think in the horror community, you see it's also the community where the filmmakers and have relationships with actors outside. You become friends with people a lot. It's an ongoing thing, because when horror movies are inherently fun to make. I mean, I've been on sets that are a little tense, but horror films they're hilarious sets to be on.
They're the most fun. They save the horrific stuff for what's on camera, and especially when you're doing like the giant blood squirt. Everyone is like trying not to laugh off screen.
It's hilarious. And my first experience myself was working on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 on Leatherface that Dave Scow wrote, and it was rough because it was a tough. Jeff Bird directed it. Rest in peace, Jeff. Yeah. He was the nicest guy in the world.
He really was.
Really, and he was my first experience with a director, and I couldn't have had a better experience. He was so nice to me. And then I got to meet Dave Scow, who is a lovable curmudgeon, and he's been a lovable curmudgeon now for 37 years. I wrote a piece for his. Oh, I'm nothing. Yeah, I'm never mind. I didn't say anything. Forget it. I love Dave. But he it was a great experience, and everybody that worked on that movie kind of stayed, friendly. You keep, and you go back, we worked on a movie 36 years ago. It's just.
I think also a lot of people that work on horror have shared, they like horror.
Right.
There's not and I feel like we're also fairly protective of our genre in that way too. Like you can smell people that are like trying to come in and like don't really like it, but know that they can make money from it and like are just coming in.
That's I totally agree with you. That's the thing too. People will say, "Oh, the LA horror community is cliquish," and I can agree to an extent. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a negative thing that we are. I mean, one whiff of inauthenticity, we don't want that around us.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like literally trying to keep the gene pool clean. You want new people to come in that are actual real horror fans, and we want those relationships to flourish, and we want to have these new voices. But we don't want somebody coming in, to be like, "Oh, this is a cash grab. I can make some money here." And you can smell, it's very easy to figure out who those people are. All you have to do is walk up to them and go, "Goddamn podunk, goddamn motherfucker up." And then if they don't understand what movie you're talking about, they're out.
It's absolutely true. Right. It's absolutely true. So you've got, now what's interesting about Popeye the Slayer Man, look, to get a theatrical berth at all is an amazing situation. And also a lot of people that work on horror films themselves, we have to go promote our own stuff because no one's going to do it better than we can. And Sean, you've been a great writer in the horror space. You've written for a lot of outlets and like Fangoria. You've done a lot of great journalism and helping get. And I thought it would be great to do this show to get the word out about Popeye the Slayer Man. Tell us about. So it's opening in theaters. It's going to be on video on demand. Tell us more about this. I mean, I want more people to be doing this. I want to see more people making more movies. I mean, I remember when Coppola was talking about how the next Citizen Kane's can be made by some 13-year-old girl in a basement in the Midwest or something like that. We haven't quite seen that yet. But nowadays, the technology, the distribution, you can't rely. The big studios are working in places that we can't even go. But now there's theater owners, there's ways to get movies released. There's a lot of opportunity here that hasn't existed before for people that are motivated.
Absolutely.
I think as far as the distribution side and in the theatrical side, that there's certainly no silver bullet answer to any of that. I mean, the theaters are still struggling nationwide. I think it really goes back to people being scrappy at the end of the day. I mean, just like any punk rock band or 13-year-old kid with an iPhone or whatever. I mean, from what I understand, Robert Ryan, the director, and Jeff Miller, and I believe Kyle Carbon, one of the producers, were just at having drinks at Tiki No, down in Lancashire one night. A
lot of stuff happens there.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happens there. Maybe early in like 2024 or something, and somebody was like, "Hey, that Popeye thing's coming out of public domain," and one of them was like, "Well, we should do Popeye the Slayer Man," and they all kind of chuckled about it. And then the next day, we're like, "Hey, that thing we talked about last night, we need to have coffee and talk about this thing." And they just went and did it, and it was not one of those things where they were asking permission. I think they just figured we might have to beg forgiveness later on.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Best way to be.
We're just going to go out and make a movie, and I think that's the most important thing. The biggest piece of advice, not that anybody's asking advice from me whatsoever, but if they were, I'd be like, as an artist, just go do it. And I know that sounds like a Nike commercial, but the point of the matter is,
no, it's Shia LaBeouf. Just do it.
Oh yeah, but it's the only way it's going to get done, right?
Don't
ask permission. Don't ask for anybody's blessing. You have to do it because you want to do it, and then just go get it done for whatever happens with it.
That's been one of the really interesting things about the press attention that this film has gotten, that at least that I noticed, especially on like CBS Morning. If you watch that clip when they talk about Poppy, they say they are making a Popeye movie. They, like the omnipotent Hollywood gods, it makes it sound like someone just decided to like said, yes, here's your, your magic
Go
wand,
forth
and
and make the film.
Exactly. Like that's how all of these mainstream outlets are like talking about it. And I'm like, that's not what happened. Like these are indie filmmakers who just decided to do it. You know? They just they're like Sean just said, how they came with the idea and they're like, yeah, we're just going to go make it and then make it happen. And I think that's a really important lesson for a lot of people out there that want to make their own movies, is that no one's going to give you $1 million. No one's going to give you permission. You need to take the initiative and do it yourself. That's the only way it's going to happen. And it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be exactly what you want. There's going to be a lot of bumps in the road, but you at least need to do that and do that many times to get to the next step, to continue to move until someone gives you money.
That was the same thing with Rendezvous, which will end up being my directorial narrative short. We shot that during the SAG strike, I was just bored. And I directed things before, but not in that capacity. And I was like, okay, well, I want to make a movie, about a car thief whose cover is blown and has to flee Los Angeles. And of course, me being me, because I'm always ambitious about everything, I'm like, I don't really have any money for this. But, I want a police chase in downtown Los Angeles. I want to do this. I want to do that. And the other thing. And going back to what Sarah was saying, you don't ask, you just go out and do it. And I think I was passionate enough about that project, which is still in post-production, but there's some really, really talented people that I love. Again, going back to what Robert was saying about film sets are very social and everybody has to have the same passion. And, Will Barrett, who shoots a lot of the, Adam Green's movies, came on to be my cinematographer, as did Ryan Valdez, who's just an amazing filmmaker in his own right. John Fitzpatrick from The Boys and Supernatural is editing this thing. I have a composer I'm not even going to mention at this point who wants to score the thing. And again, you go out and you don't know if it's going to be any good or at the end of the day, right? You go out and shoot a bunch of footage and you hope it cuts together at some point.
Well, it's funny, Sean. I watched something today. I'm not saying what it is, but it seemed to have starred the woman right between us right now.
Oh.
And it was pretty fucking rad.
And Sarah did star. She put up with me in my 4 a.m. shoots in downtown Los Angeles with 0 permits while we raced cars around and around.
I got to say, it's a very impressive piece of work. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. By the way, great costumes. You had some great jackets.
That's all Sean. Everything was Sean.
All that was pretty rad. And there was some really impressive photography in the film. There was some car shots. I was like, wow, dude. When you tell me why I made this thing and I'm watching it going, because
they didn't. If they didn't like it, I want to know why they didn't, so I can improve.
Well, I feel the same way. I already come from a place where I know what I'm going to work on is going to be. I've worked on so many things that have problems that I've had to come in and fix. Most of my career is I'm given this pile of something that is not working. Mm-hmm. And then they come to me and I've had to fix it. That's been even
I can relate, Rob.
Yeah, even Hills Run Red was Fever Dreams brought it to us, and they were unhappy with what they'd been putting out, and that's how we got Scow involved. And he completely rewrote the script. And when I watched what you were doing, I'm like, oh, you've got it. It's what you have is very, very cool. I want to see. You should just jump into the feature. Just use that. Keep shooting. Keep shooting.
I would love that.
Because there's when you have friends like that. I keep one of my heroes is Don Coscarelli, and I adore The First Phantasm. Is one of my favorite. I'll just say it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I saw it in the theater opening weekend, and I love the fact that it took him 3 years to make. He shot it over the course of 3 years, and that movie is so inventive, and it's now I watch it and it seems like it's a kid's movie with violence and blood and a few tits, but now there's something so charming. When I first saw it, Fangoria, it had this incredible violence and it was almost X-rated, and you look at it now and I'm like, this is charming. It's for kids. If I had a 9-year-old, I would show him Phantasm. I don't know what that would say about me, but
I mean, look, I saw Phantasm probably when I was 9, and I'm okay.
Yeah, totally. But the idea that it took him 3 years and he never gave up, and when he started, Star Wars hadn't come out yet, and then Star Wars comes out and the Jawas look just like his dwarves, and he had to soldier on,
right,
going.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that's the thing. I think it is also just soldiering on, specifically in the indie world. Like, things don't happen overnight.
I thought your film though was cool in the sense that it had a vibe. When you're looking for, my whole thing is authorship. I think whether it's high budget, low budget, what I want is to know that the creator who's giving me something, they themselves are showing me something that comes from them. It's not something I want to feel that I am in. This creator is giving me something that is genuine, like you said, authentic to them. They have a point of view. I felt that even from the first tilt up to the neon sign in the opening shot, and then just some of the way you moved, Sarah, with the. It's funny that the coats were all Sean. I mean, it was just cool. Like, I felt when I was watching that, it was cool. It was like, I love this vibe. You
want art, not product.
Right.
I just wanted to tell, with the car culture, that goes really far back for me, I guess. And
there's you shot you on the new 7th Street Bridge. That's a new, isn't that? There's the shot where you've got the camera here and you're looking down. That was a badass shot. I'm like, wow, that's rad, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of nights. I think we shot over 14 days on that movie, but it was like, sometimes it was like 3 hours here, 3 hours there, because you have no permits. You've got to pick the right time in the middle of the night and pray to the car gods that you're gonna get it off.
Which sometimes we didn't. The fog rolled in on the highway. We had to stop shooting.
The highway was on fire one night.
On the highway.
You're not supposed to stop. You use all shoot it all.
Yeah, no, that was going to really destroy the continuity that we had already set in place.
No.
So it was like, oh well. But no, I mean, the whole thing. I mean, that car in the movie is actually my car. I built that car, and so. And that kind of goes all the way back to my mom and dad met drag racing in the 1960s on the Great Highway in San Francisco. And my mom won. My dad was not happy about that. And he was a semi-pro drag racer at the time. And they're still together to this day. But so, yeah, just, the freedom of the automobile, what that represents, I've always been very passionate about. And certainly I love, automotive cinema, whether that be, Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry.
Dude, I'm so...
Yeah, Vanishing Point.
I love, and Two Lane Blacktop.
Oh, yeah, Two Lane Blacktop. And
I saw Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry when I was a kid. The end of that movie, I couldn't... That was one of those moments when you're watching a movie. Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry changed my life. The end of that movie, I was like, oh my... I remember getting up the next morning and telling my mom and dad, you're never going to believe what happened at the end of this movie I was watching. I couldn't believe it. And I was probably like 8 because it was on it's out on TV.
You weren't ready for that. And I don't think a lot of people were. I mean, like that, much like Vanishing Point, and I won't spoil the endings of either of those films for anybody that hasn't seen them, although I highly recommend seeing them. They end rather abruptly. And with a statement. They're both statement endings, specifically Vanishing Point, not the Jason Priestley one. So please steer clear of that. Watch the original.
But it was cool that you guys collaborated together.
I mean, it was so. I think Sarah puts up with me sometimes, and I'm really thankful. To have somebody who is as talented as she is, to be like, okay, I'm going to do this thing, I guess. That we're shooting, I was very thankful. And, it was also really fun, I think, for us to, for me to be like, you're playing this femme fatale type character, you know, that has her own agency and really let her do what she wanted with that. So much of that is just in her mannerisms and etc. And we're now boring everybody because we're talking about a movie.
There's a little movie, yeah. No, well, but what I liked about it too is that I liked seeing you guys collab. It's pretty cool, you know, and you look like you guys were having fun. And again, it goes back to the kind of the LA horror community, and there's that certain sensibility that you know, you're not some Svengali director manipulating Sarah to do your bidding. You know,
I was lucky to have so many talented people even want to jump on board with this. They could have been like, yeah, you've written things and you've produced things, but we you know, you've directed, you know, reality or documentaries, for lack of a better term, but we've never seen you do anything like that. And you can't pay us. We have no, you know, you have no budget, and
yeah,
you know, like you know, no permits. Why do we want to even do anything with that? So I was just so thankful that everybody came on, and you know, and I think they certainly elevated it, and Sarah really brought something to it. So.
Well, it was very.
Back from what we were talking about with the horror community being there to support each other.
Right.
I mean, this is clearly one of those clearly one of those things because, yeah. But I mean, speaking of Sarah, why don't we?
Well, I was going to get back to. Well, I just want to say one thing. Darth Plato, who is our resident historian on this channel, says Popeye was actually a real person.
He was.
Yes.
He was actually a real person.
Yes.
And he asks, "Is this movie a documentary?" No,
it's not. But yeah, my recall on this, and I read up on this a few months ago. But my recall on the original, the person who actually inspired the Popeye character, was just a brawler, and I believe actually was part of the Merchant Marines. Used to hang around this bar all the time, and so whoever it was that had actually originally created Popeye, and I don't know, I didn't produce this movie. He took inspiration from that guy, and apparently he was a really lovable guy. The figure that.
Yeah, well, and so Darth Plato asked about. So thank you for that.
He was, I guess, the inspiration for olive oil. Weird Popeye guy.
Major Chai Chai, who's a great lady, she says, watch the original Diabolic this week. The last 15 minutes had me on pins and needles, and what an ending. The original Diabolic is so good. Lucas Tex Venger says, Rob, thanks for the recommendation for cheap graphic novels. Got my Secret Wars copy this week. Now, when I say that, Cheap Graphic Novels is a company called Cheap Graphic Novels, and if you are obsessed with like Marvel omnibuses like I am, you can get brand new omnibuses very cheap, and that's usually 40% off. So that's pretty great. And Romy Forever has become a member of the channel, and Nick Tomato has also become a member of the channel. So
is anybody asking where Dave Parker is?
Well, I think I already slammed him down. I mean,
yeah, they already know.
You know, they already know.
None of your followers are in an uproar at this
point? Well, you know, to tell you the truth, maybe they are. I should look at the chat. Some people might be very well be. I have to go back up and look.
Like they should be upset. I mean, I feel like Dave has a following.
Dave does have a following.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just a very poor subpar replacement for Dave
Tom
Parker.
Jr. Jackson says Rob's a fixer, meaning I'm trying to fix. Dave Parker, I don't know. I can't look back and see what people are saying because we're live. But should we come clean and say that I was just kidding about the Dave Parker thing?
Yeah, we should come clean. We were just kidding.
Yeah, we were just kidding. And by the way, it was Dave Parker's idea. Sean tells me that
it literally was Dave Parker's idea. I have it in a text.
Yeah.
Actually, when we were conceiving of this show, I didn't even want to. No offense, Rob. I love talking to you, but I'd rather just do it on the phone. I didn't want to be on the show. And Dave was like, "No, that's the deal. Either, you know, you're on the show or it's not happening." And I'm like, "All right, man." And then he's like, "Oh, and then you got to play it off like Burnett fired me."
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
The real question is, can you fire somebody you don't pay? When it comes right down to it, it's But we should make it clear that, I mean, Dave Parker is one of my oldest friends in Los Angeles, and I would say that Dave is an example of the kind of person that you want in your corner, because we started working together when I started doing my own DVD special features, and he was the first person I called, and Dave and I did like The Usual Suspects. I was in New Zealand, and Dave ended up producing the Valley Girl special features that we did for MGM 20 years ago, and then he went on to work with Charlie Lazarica, and so Dave has been, he's one of the people. I mean, if I needed somebody in a clutch or a bad situation to help me out, he would be one of the very first people I would call.
Yeah, Dave's amazing.
He'd bury a body with you. He's the.
He would bury a body with me. He it's like that clip that you always see on the internet from the Town, which you have Jeremy Renner, and then you've got, why am I drawing a blank on one of my favorite actors' names? Batman. What
What's happening to you?
Good Will Hunting. Why am I drawing a blank on this?
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
So Ben Affleck there's a clip where Ben Affleck is in the Town, and he goes into Jeremy Renner and he goes, "I'm not going to tell you why, but I need you to come with me, and we're going to hurt some people." And Jeremy Renner's like, "Whose car are we taking?"
Right.
And I don't know why I lost Ben Affleck's name. It's so weird because I was just watching him, but that's the kind of guy Dave Parker is. I'd call him up and he would say, "Whose car are we taking?" Yeah. And he's always been there. So, yeah. So we didn't fire him.
He's not here now.
He's not here now. He's off doing a great job on an amazing project in a foreign country.
Yes, he is.
That they shot a James Bond movie in.
Yes, they did.
Let me just say, Dave Parker would not have a passport unless I forced him to get one when I brought him to New Zealand to work on Chronicles of Narnia on that DVD. So he would not have that. It's all thanks. Everything is it's not.
Thanks to Rob.
No. Dave Parker has his own talents, and everything he's ever done, he earned it himself.
I just want to see Hills Run Red 2. Can we please make that happen?
Dude, you know what?
Can we please make that happen? Can I help in some way to make that happen? Because I
think there's a possibility. Yes, we should, because it is a Dark Castle Entertainment project, and we get Scow to write it. How cool would that be?
Yeah.
And do it again.
We can all text him right now. Let's just text Scow right now. We want Hills Run Red 2.
Get on it.
We need the rights. I mean, we need the rights. See, I've always wanted to the Kill Riff. His book Upgunned would make a great movie that he wrote in the last 10 years. I mean, he's got short stories that are amazing. But so now let's get back to Popeye the Slayer Man. Now, Sarah, they've already put it up online, so we can't ruin it.
Yeah, you're not really rude.
Yeah, it's already out.
You're Drew Barrymore, as Sean told me. You're Drew Barrymore in Scream.
Basically, yeah.
You have the opening
of Popeye.
of Popeye the Slayer Man.
Yep.
So, and by the way, cool location. Set up this scene for us.
Yes.
Where did you shoot it? And was the exterior the same as the interior? And how long did it take to shoot this? Set up the scene. Tell us what you're on David Letterman. Tell us what your scene's about. Set it up.
So this was shot in Oneonta, New York, and Oneonta is Kyle Carvin's hometown. So he likes to bring independent film back to his hometown.
Nice.
And it shot in a feed factory. So it was a working feed factory. And we were shooting at night, and it was open during the day. So in the morning around like 5 a.m., the guys come in for their shift, and then they're done at, like 4 or 5 a.m. And then we come in to start filming. But one of the really nice things about that was it had a lot of authentic dust and dirt and grime from everything that was just always being kicked up in the air from manufacturing.
The great thing about practical locations, you can't. An art department could never build it because it's already never build it.
Yes. So that every time you came back in, there was like this perfect like layer of dust on everything. It just, and the location itself is just creepy. Like walking around that place at night, there you don't know what's going to be around any corner. There's all sorts of heavy machinery that could very literally rip somebody in half. You don't want to step in the wrong place. Like the location really adds a lot, I think, to the scene and to the entire movie. So this opening is the opening of the film. So I'm playing a drug addict, Adrian, and
what is Adrian's drug of choice? Fentanyl, heroin?
It's not actually ever revealed, but I was going with like a fentanyl, like crack, an upper essentially.
Okay. Now, when the scene begins, you're already running.
Yes.
You come in. Do we see you actually using before? Do we come right in on this?
You come right in on this. You come right in.
I have to ask the hard, tough, insightful questions. What? Now we know. So this is a scene. This is the opening scene. Do we come off? There's no credits, obviously. Do we come off the logo, or is there credits before?
No.
All right.
I'm pretty sure like this is it. This is just the introduction. This is how we start.
All right. Here is Sarah Nicklin in the beginning of Popeye the Slayer Man. Hang on, it'll start. It's spinning up. Oh, wait a minute. It might help if I actually hit the right thing.
Move your ass! We see you! You're not gonna get away from us! What? What are you doing?
You shouldn't. Isn't this the place?
So you're afraid of ghosts now? Come on!
We shouldn't be here, man. You know what happened here, right?
Come on, just move!
Let's go.
Adrian! Come to Daddy!
Don't let her get up. Don't let her get up.
I think we should get out of here.
We ain't going anywhere till we get what we want.
Gotcha, bitch! Come on, Adrian!
Making me run.
You're going.
She ain't going nowhere. You think you just steal coke from us and just walk away?
Please, I didn't mean to. Please, here, I'll pay you back.
Oh, you'll pay us back. In more ways than you know. This ain't your business. You best get the hell out of here. Or else you next.
It's him.
I'll kill her! I'll slit her throat one step closer! I swear I will!
Fuck yeah.
You're a monster.
Oh, yeah. What? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I have many questions. I have many questions.
Do it.
So did you shoot that in a day? Was that a single night scene? How long did it take to shoot?
Night. Yep, single night scene, all of that, and then some, because there was more stuff with some of the other characters also.
Sure.
Yes.
Now, did you who did the physical effects? Do you know who the effects company is who did the makeup and the makeup effects?
So the makeup effects for Popeye, so that's actually a mask. Believe it or
Right.
not.
Sure.
Yeah. So by Immortal Masks were the creators of that, and they do so
So we'll be able to buy it.
I guess.
No, I mean, yeah, shout out to George and Immortal, by the way.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to I didn't bring this up earlier. I don't want to derail Sarah. Shout out to Kyle Carbon, who's a producer on Popeye the Slayer Man, who you can now see acting alongside Robert De Niro in Zero Day, which is super awesome. So I'm really
I watched it. I really like Zero Day a lot.
I'm just super proud of Kyle. So go, Kyle.
He's Robert De Niro's bodyguard. So
Yeah.
that's
an
helping
inspiration,
dress
so.
up. That's Kyle.
I have this issue with YouTube. Sometimes it squeezes me off, but I don't know. Like I'm watching this scene and I'm thinking, you know, you're shooting exteriors, you're shooting interiors, and when you're in a location like that, it's hard. I mean, the lighting is pretty cool. The way. So how long? I won't ask how many setups, but how long did it take to shoot that entire sequence? And was it storyboarded? And did they show you what they wanted to do beforehand?
They did not show me a storyboard, but I know that they had. I mean, they had a what was it? The hardback, the with the clip. What is that called?
Clipboard.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
you know, shot list, you know, clipboard.
So they had a clipboard with everything on it, and they, you know, very clearly. And Jeff is the producer. Really, like, very meticulously was like, okay, we need to make sure we get this, we get this, we get this, we get this. And so they knew exactly what they wanted. They knew the locations where they wanted all of this to be happening. And so they didn't like show me a storyboard, but it was like, okay, you're gonna come. It was, you know, very well planned out. You're gonna come here. You're gonna do this. The camera's gonna be here, and then you're gonna look this way, and then you're gonna, so it was all like very well choreographed to get that. In terms of shooting time, so we started with some of the interiors because we were able to get inside the location and work on that before the sun went down. And then we moved to the exteriors, and then we went back to the interiors and did the blood, all the effects.
Nice.
So in total, I think it was probably 8 hours, maybe.
Okay. Wow.
Like,
Okay.
it wasn't bad. I think I was wrapped at like 2-ish. And then the other actors, Joel and Christian, who are in the scene with me, they continued. And so like Joel getting disembodied and Christian's like his hand getting broken and all of that stuff was actually shot after all of my effects stuff. So I was out.
Oh, did you stick around to watch all the physical effects?
I watched a little bit of it, but I didn't stay to watch all of it because it takes a while to do those effects.
Oh, no, I mean, that's the thing. Yes, to get all that in one day, just
That's rough.
Effects gags themselves. Yeah, specifically I mean, Rob knows, given the amount of gore that was on Hills Run Red. Like, if you don't get it right, and then you have to clean that up to reset, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, and we did a lot of that. Well, I have to say, I mean, you give good blood in the face. That was. Now I have to ask, was that only a single take, or did you do a take two?
No, it was a single take.
Because there's a lot of blood going into your face, and you maintain the screaming. You don't flinch.
This is a mark of someone who works a lot in horror. I'm not going to say Scream Queen because I feel like that is an honor that is bestowed upon you. You cannot call yourself a Scream Queen.
I agree.
That is someone else bestows that upon you. So, but as someone that works a lot in horror, I have been hit in the face with blood a lot.
It was good. No, that was good because it's tough. It's hard. That's a hard thing to do. I mean, to get splattered. I mean, that is a particular. It's kind of like the Taken in the horror world. You have a particular set of skills.
Yeah,
and
it goes against every reaction that your body has to close your eyes, to look away, to protect yourself, because you can't do that. That's not what looks good on camera. You have to stay focused. You have to get hit in the face, in the eyes. It has to be painful a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's going to be, what it is. It takes some mental control to all at the same time emoting while you're doing both things.
Which I think you did a fine job doing it, and I love that location. It adds a great deal of production value. And now, did you hang around shooting? Did you see more of the film? Were you just in and out?
I was the last day, or the second to last day. So they did the entire movie, and so that's why it worked out with my schedule with the other film. Because all of my stuff on Popeye was shot at the end, so I was doing my other movie while they were doing this movie, and then I came in at the end.
Wow,
worked out really well. So I think the only thing they had pickups to shoot the day after, so they shot some stuff at some ambient second unit stuff over at the docks. And just some exterior, establishing shots, that sort of thing, the day after. So, but that day was really the last day of principal.
Wow. By the way, you guys, I don't know how this is happening. Weird signal. Something's happening. I don't know what it is. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look who it is. It's Dave Parker coming to us from an undisclosed location from somewhere in the world. He doesn't look happy. Well, we talked about that, Dave. Look, it wasn't my choice to let you go, buddy. I couldn't. I know.
Whose choice was it? It's not like you have a committee.
Well, Princess Leia said.
You did it, Rob. It's all you.
No, Dave, it's you. You forced my hand. You forced my hand.
And with Sean, of all people, you backstabbed me, Sean.
Hang on a second. Sean did not backstab you, Dave. Sean, did you backstab him?
No.
No, I don't think so.
You cut my heart out.
Well, Dave, no. You know what? You ran away. You ran away. You went to some. Where are you, Dave? Can you say?
I'm in Malta, where they actually shot the real Popeye. Ooh.
Oh, Dave, can you talk about why are you in Malta?
I'm editing on a project that I can't talk about.
Does it have a balloon in it? Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, I just asked. I don't know, but so
your ego right now. No.
It's okay. You know what? I this is a platform for all of us, but.
I know. I'm actually, no, seriously. We joke, and anyone who believed it and anyone who celebrated my demise here when Rob did his very convincing intro, I'm not going anywhere.
By the way, that was improv, dude. Sean told me about this, very recently, and I just kind of went for it. Just so you know.
Clearly, you didn't go to the same acting school and have the same acting experience as Sarah, but
clearly
you did try.
Well, listen to this guy. This guy he just sticks it in. He's always sticking it in. Just twist it. No, well, it's Dave. I will hang on a second. Let me put you in. Give me a minute,
okay.
And I will put you into the 3-shot so we can all be together, all of us. I still have a few more questions for Sarah because the movie comes out when? The 21st?
21st, Friday, upcoming Friday. Yep.
And are you excited? Are you is there any plans? Is there going to be if you live in the greater Los Angeles area, is there one theater? It opens in NoHo?
We're doing like a cast and crew premiere. So we are doing that in NoHo.
Now, is that public? Can anybody show up?
Well,
or
I mean, it's kind of the LA premiere of Popeye. It's sold out.
It is. Oh,
yeah, So it's at it was at. I won't even say where it's at because then people are going to show up. And it's going to be weird because they can't get in because it's sold out. But yeah, that's on Wednesday night, and so I think that's always great for everybody to just, we were saying earlier, just have a celebratory night where everybody can get together and raise a toast to the fact that they were actually able to get a film done and and distributed, because that is such a Herculean task for any of us. So yeah, that's happening. And then Friday on the 21st.
But are you guys going to go to a theater though? Are you going to maybe hang out at whatever theater it's opening at?
I'm honestly I'm excited to go to the premiere because I've seen a screener of it already. But I am, like we were talking earlier, I'm really excited to watch it with an audience, and especially with an audience of fellow filmmakers and collaborators. I feel like that's going to be the peak viewing experience of it for me, at the premiere. So I think between already having seen it and then being able to experience it with the cast and crew, I think that's going to be the best moment. So I currently at least don't have plans to go to another theater outside of that. Maybe other people do, but that's at least for me.
Dave, welcome. We're all together now. I feel like it's a whole family thing.
Now.
Here we are, everyone.
Sorry, my picture's terrible. It's just coming from an iPad.
It's up. It looks good.
I didn't bring the whole setup with me this time.
Well, you sound good. You look good. I can't believe no one has ever come into the show from Malta. Dave, tell the folks at home, where is Malta?
Malta is in the Mediterranean Sea. It's kind of a little near Sicily and Africa. The sort of two closest areas towards it. It's just an island in the middle of the sea.
Are you having the best time ever?
It's fantastic. It's great. I mean, comparable to Italy, except there I was directing a movie. This time but in some ways the pressure is off me this time, so I can go explore and enjoy stuff. Rob, you'll be very proud of me. My first day off, I went to a place. There's a very famous place here in an area called Valletta. It's called The Pub. It's where Oliver Reed drank himself to death.
Oh, yes. No. Oh.
And they sell T-shirts, which I have, with everything that he drank that day on the back of it.
Dude, you got to buy me one. 2XL, come on.
I need one of those. My dad needs one. Everybody needs
you got to bring back a lot.
And the funny thing is, it's so tiny. You're like, how did Oliver Reed even fit in this place? It was so small.
Oh, well, and it was a competition. He was competing with whippersnappers to try and show the young generation what was up.
All the people that work there now weren't even alive when he was there.
Yeah.
And drank himself to death. That's how long ago it was. But it's a beautiful country. People are great. Everyone speaks English here. Maltese is still spoken, but mostly everyone speaks English, and yeah, it's fantastic.
Now, let me ask you, we were talking earlier about the LA horror community and how...
God, they're awful. They're just the worst.
Okay, I was going to ask you that you're working with Adam Green. You know, would you say that
I didn't say I'm working with Adam Green.
Oh, you didn't.
No.
Maybe we did earlier.
Maybe
only because I looked things up.
Maybe you theorized.
You're right. I might have theorized that. Okay, forget it. I'm wrong. But let me ask you this.
I'm working with someone in the horror community. Yes.
Yes. To chime in on that, we were talking about the LA horror community. Like Sarah has her job. You know, she'd worked with people in the past that knew her, and now she's the opening. We showed the opening scene of Pie. That is the greatest title. It's such a Popeye the Slayer Man is such a great. It's so great. But so how important to you has been the experience of you in the LA horror community? Like you're now you're in Malta. It's what a dream job to have. How important? Important was this family? This sort of dysfunctionally crazy family of horror fans and filmmakers. How important was it to you to get where you are today? Literally and figuratively.
I wouldn't be here in Malta right now if it wasn't for the connections within the horror family, the Fright Club, the horror crowd, as it's been called. So yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. We, all three of you know, it's all about. You can be the most talented person, but it's all about connections.
Yeah. Well, and also you have to be likable. People have to like you. It's a social business.
Rob, it's all about connections. It doesn't have to be likable. I mean, we're talking me here.
Well, I know, clearly not, Dave. Okay. But I would say that both Popeye the Slayer Man and the undisclosed movie that you're working on now, Sarah is bi-coastal, and she went and worked in a film.
Wait, what? Oh.
Don't get your knickers in a bunch, man. That's
Hey,
come on.
Rob, someone had to bring some spice to the show. It's midnight metal, even though it's 6:40 a.m. here.
Oh wow, you're up early.
He got up early
from the future on my day off.
Oh my goodness, that's a commitment. Honestly, I would not get up at 6 a.m. for anything except for a movie shoot and hiking. So thank you for being here.
Very true.
But anyway, I mean, you never know where the day takes you. You're now in Malta. And how long are you in Malta? How long, your stint on this project, how long will it be?
I'm here for 5 weeks, and then we come back, and then there's another 12 weeks of editorial.
More, okay. But both you and Sarah, though, the point I was trying to make is that the relationships that you both forged throughout your career has led you to your latest projects. Is that not true?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that both of you are products of that, and I think it's really cool that when people know and they know you and they can work with you, that it's an ongoing thing, that it doesn't go away. I mean, it's in a lot of industries don't have this, and I think that it's a testament to both of you that you both have. I mean, Sarah's project's coming out on the 21st of March. And it'll be on VOD and in theaters near you. That's Popeye the Slayer Man. You're working on something right now, but the two of you both have benefited from those relationships.
Well, I think all of us have.
Yeah.
I think everyone on the screen right now has benefited from that in one way or another. And we all constantly pay it forward.
By the way, did you listen to anything on your way to Malta?
I did listen to a little bit of something, yes, but not all of it yet. I haven't finished it yet. Okay. I've been using it. I've been listening to it while I've been walking and exploring.
Okay.
It's Rob, it's okay. Could be a little more metal. No, it's an incredibly impressive thing. If I have to wax your pole.
No, but thank you. I mean, hey. Episode 8. I'll send it to you. It's a banger.
Oh, awesome.
No, but I mean, I was trying to bring it back home to the idea that both of you have ongoing projects. You have brand new projects with people that you'd worked with in the past, that people know you, and how important that is in terms of what we're trying to do. You know, Sean shared with me today something he's directing that also was an example of these kinds of relationships, and how, you know, a lot of people talk a lot of shit about Hollywood culturally and things lately, but I would say that our experience of what we do has been, for the most part, rather positive in terms of the work we've done and the people. Not always. Sometimes I want to put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger, but that's only occasionally. Then I'm like, oh, but wait a minute, Second Sight's putting out The Brood in 4K. Got to stick around to watch that.
Hold on, Rob. Hold the phone. Who cares about The Brood when Grindhouse Releasing is doing a 6-disc Beyond?
Bro, pre-ordered. Click.
Me too.
Click.
From here.
Click.
Pre-ordered.
I know. Although, can we talk about this?
Wow.
Can we just talk about it?
I haven't seen
Okay. This is not, I don't care what anyone says. This is not good. It's not good. I watched this. I watched all the special features. I read everything. No, you're not going to convince me that this is some lost. I know they discovered it at the New Beverly. Sorry, just no.
Okay.
Anyway,
I haven't seen it. I cannot see. And
don't watch it. Don't.
Rob, did you do a little happy dance when Sorcerer was announced for Criterion?
Well, that's the subject of tomorrow's Let's Get Physical Media. Did I do a happy dance? For those of you who don't know, Criterion announced that they are releasing William Friedkin's Sorcerer in 4K.
Watching, right?
Well, I mean, look,
of the show.
I think Sean would agree.
Dieter,
Sarah,
I hear you and Dieter are going to have a dance off.
We are going to have a dance off, but not tomorrow. Cool. It's coming. But I think one of the great things, especially in terms of horror, is how the preservation of these films. I mean, horror has led the way in terms of, because the horror crowd, in addition to being supportive and competitive, we also are the first people to go buy very expensive special editions of our favorite movies. Absolutely. I mean, we were talking about Terrifier leading the way to like Popeye the Slayer Man. I mean, my God, which, by the way, opens on March 21st at a theater near you and on VOD. But
and if you like Popeye the Slayer Man, come to Malta, where you can still go to Barbara Altman's Sweet Haven, the set from Popeye.
That's amazing.
I didn't know that. That is amazing.
Exists.
Well, what you should do is shoot some B-roll in Malta that they can use in Popeye the Slayer Man 2. You got to use that second unit B-roll, dude. Go shoot all you can while you're in that town. Because those are the flashback origin scene stuff. Whatever you shoot, come on.
Sure, we have access to drones and stuff like that. I can shoot a bunch of stuff.
4K, you got a phone?
Oh, no, I don't need the phone.
Well, you can't take productions.
What do you mean? I have access to cameras and things.
Well, if you can, okay, then shoot the shit out of it, and then Sarah can hook you up with her producers, and you can do, the Popeye the Slayer Man origin story on that actual set.
And what
in
you tell
Malta,
them, Sarah, is this: Malta, there is a 40% rebate on everything spent here for production and post-production.
That's a very big. So that's what you actually have to be there to do the post-production to get the rebate. Is that correct? No.
Nope. You could just do the post-production here and still get a 40% rebate on the editorial and all post stuff.
Wow.
As well. But why wouldn't you want to shoot here?
I know.
I mean, I'm jealous. I'm so jealous of you right now, where you are. Like, please sign me up. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Sarah, my moderator, Tom Jr. Jackson, says, well, happy birthday to me, Rob. But says, Sarah, you're from a place not too far from me. I'm from Westerly, Rhode Island. Nice to see a fellow East Coaster, and good to see you, Sean.
Yeah.
Hello.
So
maybe you should tell Tom Jr. Jackson that I'm also from the East Coast.
Well, he wasn't here yet. You weren't here yet, so he probably didn't know that you were going to be. Are you really from the East Coast? I thought you were from like some podunk farm town somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, in Vermont.
Oh, okay, that's East Coast. All right.
I actually did live in Rhode Island for a little bit, so I was even closer to Westerly than where I grew up in Connecticut, because I lived in Providence for about a year and a half before coming out here, so very close.
Wow. 1001 Johnny says Popeye massacring everyone. Hatutu? Hatutu? I don't know what that means, but 1001 Johnny.
Positive to me.
Yeah,
It is positive. It is positive. So Sarah, back to Popeye the Slayer Man. I mean, going back there. By the way, opening March 21st.
Oh my God, Rob.
And also, I mean, we're here to shill. I'm shilling right now. Shilling.
I mean,
Just like.
yeah, it's a lot, Rob.
I know. I'm just saying, so people should know. But still, so when a film like this is going to come out, and how do you know anything about? And Sean, maybe you can speak to this. The distribution of the film. How is it decided? It could have gone theatrical. It could have gone streaming. But the fact that it's going on VOD and theatrical, that's pretty cool. And do you know anything about?
We're seeing a lot of that these days. I mean, I have no purview in regards to what that decision making was or how that came together with the distributor.
No, I just didn't know if you were involved at all, because it's very cool that it's happening.
If I were to guess, I would imagine that because of the trailer going viral in November, because it crossed into the mainstream, that people were really talking about it. And again, talking about how Terrifier has paved the way for so much. Due to the success of Terrifier 2, making $11 million when no one thought it was going to do anything. I think that there are a lot of distribution companies and theaters that are also much more willing to take a chance on a gory horror movie now than they would have before. So I think that has absolutely added to why this is getting a theatrical.
Yeah, I mean, and that said, I think also just the public's perception, the mainstream public's perception of horror, is changing, and we've been seeing that for many years. I mean, specifically since The Walking Dead became essentially everybody's soap opera every Sunday night for years upon end. But looking at the SAG Awards just this year with that huge Scream Queens segment.
Oh yeah.
Which was just incredible. Sarah and I were both watching it together, and we were like, "Wait, what is that?" You know what I mean? Because it's all of our friends. It's all these people that we grew up watching. It's all these people that we do work with that are consummate professionals, but because the mainstream generally looks down, or has in the past looked down on horror, we're considered we're kind of maligned.
Horror has always been like one step above porn. That's how people view it,
Well, and obviously, the great thing about this, things are changing with the SAG Awards having that, and The Substance, Nosferatu, etc., having been nominated for Oscars this year, and also to Sarah's point, Nora, which is about sex workers, winning 5 Academy Awards.
Unbelievable.
It's it's great. So I would
and it's essentially an indie film too. I mean, a $6 million film that Sean Baker has been nothing if not at the forefront of cutting edge indie cinema. That's also has heart. I mean, Tangerine's a terrific film.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah. So tangential. Again, we shall see. Rob has us talk a lot, and then people lose track.
Yeah.
No,
but looking more tired than I am.
We need Dave Parker to hurt us in the right direction.
I do have a question for Sarah though.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen the movie. Rob, what's it called? And
it's called Popeye the Slayer Man.
That one.
In a world where one merchant marine.
Do they set up a sequel with potentially other Popeye characters?
Not. I could say it could go either way. It is a fully like formed standalone. There's not necessarily loose ends that need to be tied up, but there are definitely ways that they could be tied up easily if you wanted them to be.
So they didn't do anything like tease, like, oh, Bluto's coming in the next one, or Olive Oil is going to be a crazy female slasher.
Because Bluto's not public domain yet. So
it's just Popeye.
It's just Popeye. Yeah. Exactly.
Gotcha.
It's like very specific.
Okay.
So that's why he's not in it. And there's no.
I just love that we're having this conversation.
Now, did you already cover who did the makeup for Popeye, who did the effects on the film?
I just mentioned I really like them.
Yes.
Okay.
We talked about Popeye himself, and it's a Immortal Mask.
Oh, okay. I know George and those guys very well. They're fantastic, and they've been doing a lot. Immortal Masks has a company online for people who are interested that sell very high-end silicone masks.
Yeah.
And they did the original Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey mask and the Piglet mask. They've also done things that people would. One thing that's very metal is when Ghost would perform, Papa was an immortal mask instead of the singer performer wearing makeup all the time. No,
and don't they make those human masks that you can walk around in, and so people can't recognize you?
They did that. Funny enough, they did that for a very, very big celebrity who was in court in a small town, and he wanted to be able to leave the courthouse without being recognized, and he did wear one of their masks.
Yeah.
I don't want to say who because I don't think that's for public knowledge. But yeah, it was that was really impressive.
But
I have another question for you all. So we have Winnie the Pooh and some of those characters. We have Mickey Mouse now, or Steamboat Willie. We have Bambi coming. We have Pinocchio, all part of this Winnie the Pooh universe thing. What other public domain character if you know, would you like to see go the horror route that these things, this sort of trend is going, that would, really work?
Another one that's coming up soon that I'm aware of, and I don't know, all of a sudden I know about public domain. I never thought about any of this stuff before, but so Betty Boop is coming up. And she would be an amazing final girl.
I mean, that could be terrifying because that could be like a whole horrible, like plastic surgery nightmare story. If you made her look like the cartoon in a way, but live action.
Right. I think there's so much fun stuff that you could do with that, like as a horror film, that I would like to see that. I'm sure someone will do it because she's coming up soon.
Well, maybe one of us will. Now that
Dave,
we know it's coming.
Dave, it's funny you ask this question because I have another answer that's not necessarily horror related. But as everyone knows, I've been doing an audio drama written by author Max Allan Collins called True Noir, The Assassination of Anton Cermak. You can go get it at truenoir.co. But Max Allan... You should. Episode 8's a banger. We just released it. Max Allan Collins was a huge fan of Dashiell Hammett's book, The Maltese Falcon. That was, of course, made into the very famous movie.
Right.
And The Maltese Falcon is going into the public domain next year in January of 2026. And the character of Sam Spade and the Humphrey Bogart character all go into the public domain. And Max Allan Collins, his favorite novel of all time, his favorite, at least detective novel of all time, is The Maltese Falcon, that was written, I believe, in 1930. He made a deal with Titan Books, and coming out in January of 2026, Max Allan Collins, who wrote the graphic novel that Road to Perdition was based on, he wrote The Return of the Maltese Falcon. And just like Popeye the Slayer Man, which is being released very, very close to the actual date that Popeye goes into the public domain, Max Allan Collins himself and Titan Books have The Return of the Maltese Falcon locked and loaded. He wrote the novel. He's delivered it. It's coming out in January 2026.
Now, is he doing it? Is it still period? Or is he?
It's well, I guess it's a good question. I would imagine it's very period. I mean, he lives in that area, but it's funny that we're all kind of involved peripherally in these things that are going into the public domain. I mean, I think it's really interesting because everything is going to eventually go into the public domain. We're going to see things in our lives that are huge IPs. I mean, Disney has been very egregious in terms of trying to protect their interests in their own IP. And the idea was that, well, after the creators have come and gone, no one ever thought corporations would build their entire identities around IP.
Right.
But that's where we are. And it's
not that far until Superman actually is public domain.
I know. James Bond is public domain in Canada.
Yeah, it's
a very specific Superman, because it's a Superman who can leap tall buildings but cannot fly.
Right.
This is true.
Interesting. Does anyone know? Because I don't know, and I've wondered this because I feel like public domain is kind of shitty. Like someone created this, and their own family, like why did they lose the rights all of a sudden? So does anyone know what law was like? Why does this exist? What was the good that was supposed to come out of allowing IPs to become public domain?
It's a good question. I'm looking this up on the internet.
Well, like, what is the reasoning behind that?
Okay, here's what the AI overview says.
Oh,
I know, right? The public domain exists to ensure that creative works, ideas, and knowledge become freely available for use and building upon after their copyright protection expires or is never applicable, fostering innovation and cultural enrichment. And then it goes on to say, here's a more detailed...
Rob, hold on. So that sounds like Popeye the Slayer Man to a T. Cultural enrichment.
Cultural enrichment. I'm sure that's what they had in mind when they created that law.
Well, now, hang on a second. The public benefit, it says. The public domain allows for the preservation of history and culture. It ensures that important historical, scientific, and cultural works remain accessible for future generations. Fostering innovation. It provides a foundation for new creative works, allowing individuals to build upon existing ideas and knowledge. Popeye the Slayer Man fits right into that. New creative works. Promoting education. Public domain works are freely available for educational purposes, because if you want to know how you can slay after eating some kind of tainted spinach, Popeye the Slayer Man, that's your movie. Allowing teachers and students to access and learn from, enabling low-cost access, hence an independent film. It allows for the creation. How many of you have seen the original Popeye cartoons?
Williams Popeye at this point, which also is coming out in 4K soon.
I saw it.
I saw it in the theater.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater, and I didn't like it.
I did too. I didn't. It grew on me. It grew on me later on. I appreciate it so much more now than I did then. As a kid, I was like, this isn't fun. This is kind of like Dave Parker, morose and kind of sad.
Wait, what did you just say?
Wait, what?
What?
I mean, it's kind of like Rob paints me as this morose, sad.
Oh, wait. I paint you as that?
Wait, can I ask, does anyone know when does Eeyore come into the public domain? Because I think that being my spirit animal really should be the one that I should do.
You should direct that one, Dave.
You should direct.
He's no longer sad.
With you.
He's mad.
By the way, Thomas Logan chimes in, sends in a super chat and says, The Exorcist was up for 10 Academy Awards at the 74 Oscars. It won adapted screenplay and sound. Horror was never looked down upon. It just has to be good.
Horror's always been looked down upon.
I don't agree with that. I think it's just The Exorcist had a literary you had a Jesuit writing a novel, so it suddenly had a patina of respectability.
Well, plus
Rob,
the
let
Catholic
me ask
Church
you
signed
this.
off on it. So,
Rob, I have a question for you. Speaking about The Exorcist, because I was just made aware recently about this book that Blatty wrote at the time, which was he wrote a book about his experience about making the movie. I think it's called William Peter Blatty and the Exorcist.
Now I have to get it. I've never read it.
It came out in the 70s, right after the success of the movie.
I've never read that. I'd love to get that.
I would like to. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I still look, I love The Exorcist. It's the Star Wars of horror.
It's phenomenal. And it changes as you age. It's one of those movies that you're going to continuing to get different things out of as you grow up and watch it every time you see it. It's amazing.
Now I know why he loves you. I see it. That's exactly.
So, yeah, Rob's in his Burt Dennings period right now of what he relates to in The Exorcist.
Nazi bastard. Come on. No, that's not true. That is not true. I am not Burke Dennings. No. Look, here's the great thing about The Exorcist was I had never seen it. And I was 13 years old in 1980, and I got a bar mitzvah VCR. That was my big thing for my bar mitzvah. That's all I wanted. So I went to the second video store in the United States that was in Seattle, and I brought home Alice, Sweet Alice, because it was on Allied Artists. I got The Exorcist. I had the VCI Dark Star. VCI has been putting out Dark Star for 45 years. And I put in The Exorcist Friday night at midnight that I had my VCR. I could not get through the Iraq sequence. I was so fucking freaked out. Like I'd heard it was the tone. It was the tone of it. And when I saw Father Marin facing off against the statue of, I don't know if Pazuzu is canonical, but I'll call it that. But I turned it off. I'm like, there's no fucking way. I can't. It was the next day, the Saturday, and I put it on at like noon. And it changed my life. It changed my life. That movie changed my life.
Well, it was the same thing for Sarah. That was like her first horror film.
It was. So The Exorcist and Halloween were my first two horror films. And we watched them at a friend's sleepover. I was like 9 or 10. This is like, fourth grade.
Oh my, was it like all girls?
It was all girls sleepover. And the only reason that we even had them is because my friend had an older brother who was like the cool older brother who went and rented them for us, because otherwise no one's going to let us, watch that. So we watched The Exorcist and we're all young girls. So of course we were identifying Reagan. And I mean, let me tell you, as a young girl, as a young guy, you start to discover things about your body at certain stages of life. And around that stage, you're discovering that some things feel certain ways when you touch them. And then she's just taken the crucifix. And so that was just that was, to me, at that stage in my life, was probably the most horrifying part of that, because I experienced that in, I think, a very different way than someone who was an adult seeing it, because of where I was in my developmental journey.
I have to say, one of my favorite things, there's all kinds of reaction videos on YouTube. And there was a time when I was watching, there was teenage girls reacting to The Exorcist. And because nowadays we don't have real transgressive horror. Yeah. There's nothing transgressive about any of the horror. It's interesting, but it's not transgressive. And it was watching girls react to something that is that even today, it's so transgressive. To watch people, especially kids of today, that they don't know what transgressive is. They don't have, everything is programmed. They don't have real, art is not transgressive. They've only been consuming things. I can only imagine what happened at that party, because, oh my. And that was why I was watching, because it was, I think our culture has been so infantilized, and what it means to be a human being. We don't even want to talk about it anymore. We can't talk about things that all of us do, all of us have. The Exorcist, that thing in particular, watching people respond to that, I was like, gosh, I hope they learned something from this, because they were not prepared. Not prepared.
No, not at all. Not in any way whatsoever.
And like you said, it's not an easy thing. It's very violent, and it's very. But now let me ask you this. At that time in your life, when you were at that slumber party and that you saw that happen, did you talk to your friends that were at the? How did everybody else respond? And how did you guys all respond to that?
I think there were some girls that it was too much for them, and they decided they were no longer going to sleep in the living room with the rest of us. They took their sleeping bag and went into the kitchen, and they're not going to do this anymore. But we didn't talk about it really, because we watched Halloween right after. So
right, sure, okay.
And we went right into Halloween.
You're moving on to the palate cleanser where mass assailant slaughters oversexed teenagers.
Never.
It's like watching Inside after Martyrs, which is what I always recommend.
Oh well, that happened.
We did High Tension Martyrs. We didn't do Inside. We did.
Oh my god!
Martyrs.
Yeah,
Double feature one night.
So I used to live in this apartment building. Parker remembers in Hollywood. It was built in '37. So, casement windows, the walls are all, about a foot thick of concrete. I mean, it's one of those buildings. It's lovely. My point is, sound does not travel from apartment to apartment. So I was like, I think it was early on in our relationship. And I was like, Sarah, we're going to go watch some French extreme horror films. So we went over to the house, popped in High Tension and then Martyrs, and had a really good sound system. So it was loud. And so when we just went to bed. I got up the next morning and there's a note on my door from apparently the guy who just moved in next door. Who knew there was a new guy who moved in next door? I didn't know, but he was like, "Dear neighbor," he's like, I came over last night to congratulate you on your sound system, but apparently you didn't hear me knocking. The next time you want to have a double feature, please let me know and I'll bring over a can of thing of popcorn. And I thought it was the sweetest note, that just said, "Fucking please shut up." Right?
It was the nice way to say, "Shut the fuck up."
This poor guy had to listen to just people screaming bloody murder in French for 4 hours, which I think is got to be more traumatic than actually watching the films. Because at least when you're watching the films, you have an idea of what's transpiring. On the other side of the wall, God knows where his imagination was going.
Wow.
Pretty funny. Yeah. Sorry, neighbor, if you're a ex-neighbor, wherever you are. It was High Tension and Martyrs, if you needed to know. So
yeah.
Wow.
That's quite. Rob, let me ask you something, because you said that the youth today, those who actually watch movies and stuff like that, there's, especially in the genre, there's not much things that are transgressive.
Yeah,
anymore.
I know you always got mad at me about my philosophy of horror.
No. I find it really interesting. At least this time. For once, so yeah, good on you.
Brutal.
Set them up, and I just. But why do you think that is? I mean, I guess they some people would argue, and I'm more in agreement with you. Some people would argue that the Terrifier movies they're transgressive for today, but what do you really mean? And is there a way to be transgressive now with so much such a flood of so many things?
Dave, that's an amazing question. Here's the thing. I think our society, especially in America, we live in a very strange place now where we've now become used to school shootings, and we've now become desensitized to OnlyFans. All of these the being human. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to care or feel or love somebody? we've gotten rid of all of that. And I think that our civilization has taken feelings and meaning and washed it aside. It's all become a surface thing. And I think that we are, not us, but I think that our especially young people today they've been medicated since they were kids. They are, everything has been, they have to be comfortable at every moment. I heard something that shocked me, that one of the things about removing cell phones from schools that was so disconcerting to students is they couldn't listen to music while they took tests. And I was like, what? Like it was like, we now have a civilization, especially here in America, where discomfort is something people don't, everything is designed to make you feel. I didn't grow up all I knew was discomfort. I mean, the whole point of life was that life was uncomfortable. Life was, we all led lives of quiet desperation. And the thing about transgression, when, like what Sarah was just saying about The Exorcist, people can't even, that's why I would watch people's reaction videos to The Exorcist, because they couldn't even conceive of that one particular scene. Like, if you were a 12-year-old girl and saw that today, I would be like, oh my God, it would be so beyond, it would be truly horrific. I think right now, part of the reason is we've been infantilized as a civilization, where common sense and the actual reality of our existence has been we're so removed from common sense. We're so removed from our daily, what it means to be alive, the flesh of it all. When David Cronenberg talks about Long Live the New Flesh, that was in 1983. We're so far away from that stuff that we are no longer grounded or part of the actual soil of the very earth that we came from. Yeah. And transgression.
I agree to that. I agree with all that to a large extent. And I mean, I think the ripple, effect and implications of that are huge. A lot of that comes down to the fact that, obviously, look, some terrible wars have happened, Vietnam to Korea to, the Middle East, which went on forever. But to a large extent, since World War II, the U.S. has been living in this constant state of peace.
Yes.
For so long that people don't understand what it's like to not have that. And therefore, they no longer, hold it as dear as they should. And we had talked earlier, I'm not going to try to dip into a lot of political conversation right now, but, it would be bad of me not to, just at least point out the fact that there's a fascist in the White House. And that's where we're at. And people just seem to be like, oh, it's cool, because comfort equals consumerism, right? And consumerism equals comfort. As long as there's money attached to something that can take away your discomfort and therefore your growth as a human being, they will keep marketing it to you in algorithms on your IG or your Tik or whatever you're doing all day long.
Well, and the internet and social media has a lot to do with that too, especially when you're talking about the younger generation, because it's a mild form of brainwashing. Just by you're put in front of this screen and you get instant stimulus, you get that dopamine release just by scrolling through the social media. So you're used to getting this feel good high all the time. That is normal, right? For this the current society with what is there, and that's also what keeps people docile and keeps people, in line. This distraction that we have, and with the convenience that we get from internet and social media and all of this stuff is, it's not lost on me, the irony that you're saying, we've lost touch with the flesh and with people. And here we are, we're all doing this through the internet, and, we're not in front of each other. It's part of our society, but it's also what is adding to a lot of this disconnect. And you can't get away from it at this point.
Yeah, and I think
I will say, sorry, Rob.
Oh no,
I just want to say, from my observations from the times that I have been
David, hang on one second.
overseas-
I just have to run outside. My dog is scratching at the. I turn it over to you, Dave.
Okay. I mean, but I think from my observations from being overseas, the times that I have over the years and stuff, I think what everyone's talking about is much more of an American thing. It's more of a U.S. thing because I don't see the same things. Certainly, don't see the same things here in Malta right now, and I didn't experience the same things in Italy. It's much more. Everything is much more communal. People go out and they're hanging out and they're experiencing life and not all glued to it. Even when we go out to dinner or something, here people are not glued to their phones. I mean, we have dinner, no one picks up their phone. We're just all sort of.
Well, no, you're in the moment. I mean, Sarah and I certainly, saw that, when we were in France, when we were in Belize, when we're just even in other areas of the U.S. as well. I think, certainly within the major metropolitan areas, it's a part of our culture to a large extent. I'm going to say for bad. Just on a daily, and I mean, I see you do it as well, Dave. I mean, we all live roughly in the same neighborhood. Just even when, you're going to, the local store, the corner store, or just interacting with your own community, I always really try to say hello to people, and interact with them on a personal level, not just as a, oh, you're here to serve me type vibe. And, and I really appreciate having that sense of community, or attempting to have that sense of community in that microcosm of it in Los Angeles, because, we all experience it every day. So many Los Angelinos, and there's a reason for this. Everybody's suspicious because the town's tough, but a lot of them won't even say hello, right? They just don't. And then if you do say hello, there's that moment of, I think, anxiety on their face because they're not quite sure what you're going to ask them for. And when they realize you're not asking them for anything, you're just being, neighborly. Like,
yeah, it's a really interesting in society sort of like, magnifying glass on this stuff, because it's true. I mean, but in other places of the world, it doesn't happen. People do
right.
Like where I have to go to work, I have to, because I don't have a car here, so I get taken by their equivalent of an Uber or a taxi, and I'm constantly talking with the driver almost every time now. Whereas in LA, you get in the Uber, you barely talk to them, like just go. It's a very interesting thing, but it's sort of that I think that's what's always nice about being able to get away, and whether you're working on something or just going to experience a new place and everything, just sort of this reminder that the microcosm of the world that we perceive isn't exactly what it is to the rest of the world.
No, 100%. And I mean, I think that's one of the most important things that, I try to tell people all the time is, question what you think you already know often, and travel, because that's going to be the biggest thing that opens your eyes, and travel in such a way that you're not going to get in a jet and fly to a resort and stay in a resort and then fly home, because that's not going to be beneficial to you in regards to, enlarging your worldview. But at first,
again, if you can't afford to do that and anything else, I think it's just an interesting thing. It's also kind of a sad thing where some places in America, especially, and I don't know if the internet is what's breeding this sort of reaction or non-reaction out of people or what, but it's just it's different.
Well, I think also too is I think that, look, we've had things that have happened, like, for instance, in America, one of the things that I find distressing is we are people that have actual knowledge and experience are being marginalized because everyone thinks that their opinion should matter. And while I think that in a republic such as ours, people's opinions do matter, but we need excellence. We need learned people. We need people that are at the top of their professions. And we've watched in the last couple of months where we've had people that have, like, the national parks, for instance. I'll give you an example. I was reading this story about a national park ranger who for 30 years worked at this national park. He knew everything about it. He knew the migration patterns of the animals that live there. He knew where to take people. He knew everything about this gigantic plot of land based on his knowledge of 30 years of working at this place. He's been dismissed. He lost his job. And based on some analytics for people that have never been to his national park, never knew what he did, never knew what how that park affected people who they might have been inspired to go create people to have the value. Like we in America now, if you can't codify it or quantify it on a spreadsheet, it's not worth anything. And to me, this is ridiculous. I mean, this is common sense that we are a country that a lot of other countries here are not. A lot of
other countries give grants to artists also. And like, you know, if you're a filmmaker in Europe, there's a lot of countries where like the government helps you to make a living until you're like successful at it. There's a lot more of a celebration and a support system for things that are culturally enriching and not necessarily financially enriching.
Right. And we can't, I mean, unless you can quantify value and put a monetary value to it, and that's something that you can't always do. Human existence, the quality of life, how do you put a dollar value to that? I mean, you don't want to descend into a THX 1138 world where all people are in servitude to the corporations or our lives. I mean, what I found really interesting about art in particular, whether it's films or novels, all art is humans trying to make sense of our existence. And the most truthful and the best art is something that speaks to you and somehow tells you or informs you about, you know, our lives of quiet desperation. Again, I keep coming back to that. You know, you might look at a painting or you might read a novel or you might see a movie, and one of those things quantifies existence for you. And how do you put a price on that? And yet now I love capitalism, but in addition to capitalism, there's something to be said for the fact that not everything of value is valuable because of a dollar value associated with it. And a national park has value because it enriches the soul, which, by the way, is priceless.
Watch me summate this and swing it all the way back around to metal and Sarah Nicklin and the topic of this conversation, which is humanism, the thing that we're all directly lacking in today's political climate. Sarah did a video for a metal band called I Prevail, which racked up, I don't know, over 1 million views.
Wow.
And it's all about humanism.
It is.
So yeah, the thing kind of like chokes me up every time I see it. It was they shot actually in our house, which was kind of cool, as well as some other locations. I don't want to give it away, but whenever Rob wants to cue that up, I think that do you see what I did there?
Yes.
Yeah,
well,
Rob,
wait, hang on. Was
So Rob, the thing that you didn't know was that actually Parker and I had a conversation on the side a few days ago, and we're actually letting you go from Midnight Metal. I'm sorry to say.
Oh.
So with
sucks.
that, Rob, this will be the last video Rob plays on Midnight Metal. It's called. Why don't you take it away and cue it up for us, Sarah?
Wait a minute. I don't even. Where is this video? I'll find it. Where is it? Did you send it to me?
It's called Every Time You Leave by I Prevail.
I think I sent it to you today.
Oh wait, I might not. I didn't see that. I did make. See, I have to convert things before I play them.
Oh gee.
Yeah. by. Okay, hang on. I can you keep talking. I'll get it. Don't worry. Hang on.
I'm listening. I'm getting
So-
getting a refill on my morning coffee.
So this was also, again, we were talking about people wanting to work with people that they know. So the director of this video, it was shot out here in Los Angeles, but the director is someone I knew from back in New England. He still lives in New Hampshire. But he came out here to direct a series of music videos for I Prevail, because he had done some for them before. And he on Instagram, he was like, "Hey, I'm doing a music video. I'm out in town. Like, who would want to be in it?" And I was like, "Hey, remember me? I'd love to come and help out. Just like, let me know." And originally, they wanted to cast an Instagram influencer in like the main female role.
Wow.
And she ended up not being available or something. And so then Ben, the director, was like, "I'm so glad she's not available. I want to put you in this because you're an actual actor." So, and then that was it. We went out and we shot it, and it's pretty moving. He did a really good job with it, and then that was the other thing. So Ben was staying here in an Airbnb, coming out to shoot the music video, and originally they were going to shoot in the Airbnb where he was staying as part of like the house set. And then he was looking at it and he's like, "I don't really like this." And he's like, "Sarah, that you guys have a house. Could we maybe film this stuff in your house?"
Yeah, and of course I was stressed the entire time with like, C-stands knocking holes in the wall. And none of that happened. The film crew was super respectful. The one thing, Sarah will laugh about this. I think we talked about this about a year ago. I think I had rewatched the video for some reason, and I was like, "Oh my God, our house is that old terrible pink color." Because the house used to be like this seafoam green,
Wow.
or the seafoam color. And then over COVID, like Sarah and I, just like pretty much everybody else on the planet, were like, "Well, I guess it's time for home improvement. We've got nothing else to do." So,
Well, I do have the video.
Color.
Can I play this and not get
Humanism, yeah, there you go. Humanism and midnight metal all in one.
Humanism? I love it. All right, here we go. This is I Prevail, and the song is called what, Sarah?
Every Time You Leave.
Every Time You Leave.
Stand in the doorway.
Well,
Very
That was
uplifting.
excellent. That was way more epic than one would expect for.
yeah, that
a
was
music
yeah.
video.
But I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's the point is well. It's well taken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a really good job with it. It's one of those where, you know, the first time I saw it, I like surprisingly started to like get choked up. Like, even though I had been in it, I knew what the concept was. I was like, whew, this is like, you know, hits you.
Yeah. Makes you
Yeah,
think.
it's. I mean, you know, I think one of the things it's interesting that the horror community, funny enough, is all about family. You know, it's all about we love, and I've always maintained, and I don't know if anyone believes this or not, but I've always thought that horror as a genre was one of the most moral of all genres because it's all about humanity or humans fighting to retain their humanity in the face of whether it's Lovecraftian old ones or whether it's the anti-god of Prince of Darkness or whether it's Michael Myers. The final girl is fighting for her humanity in the face of unimaginable evil, and
Morality plays
yeah,
in one way or another. Oh, yeah.
It's very basic. It's good versus evil.
yeah, but it's also the thing is like even a movie like when I saw Martyrs for the first time. I'd heard about it. I hadn't seen it. I'd read the interview with Patrick Luget, in Fangoria, and I still, you know, you always get a sense of what a movie's about. I'd read all this stuff about Martyrs, and I'm like, what? I'm like, what is this movie? What is this movie? What is it about? What's the plot? And in all the coverage on this movie that the horror journalists had given it, I had no sense of. So finally, when it came out on DVD on Dimension Extreme, of course, I was like, ooh, I had to get it the first day. I was blown away by this movie. And after watching it, I totally understood why you couldn't. I had no idea what the plot was.
Yeah.
And when it got to the end, and it ends on I would call it almost a hopeful note, because it basically, at the end of Martyrs, it says that God exists. Like, there is a God.
Potentially, and I think that's the thing that is absolutely so disturbing about that movie.
That's what kills you. Yes.
And that's why that movie works so well on so many levels. I mean, first off, it's you know, it's just down the rabbit's hole. What you think it is what it's not halfway through.
Oh my God!
Then you were so supplanted in you know, our protagonist's shoes, and you can't escape from it. That for me, when I was initially watching it, and we had premiered that, I think it was the West Coast premiere at Screamfest, and I was incidentally sitting next to Ryan Turek for this screening, and we were both squirming, I think, but like I've never seen Ryan, like he was, you know, visually, you know, just physically upset, which is a testament to the power of that film, because so was I. But you get to, you know, you kind of want her to die. You're like, can she die now? Because because you feel that you're being tortured along with her, and you're like, maybe this is my only escape from this film is her death, because it just gets so much. And then you get to the end, and you've got this nebulous ending on it that's transcendental, but in which way, right? And that, I think, is that's the kick in the throat right there.
Yeah,
it's such a powerful film, and it's absolutely a wonderful piece of filmmaking.
Yeah, and the thing is
amazing too. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. So go ahead.
I wanted to talk about Transgressive, and I mean, there you go. You
know,
totally.
I just thought the one thing I wanted to say was at the end, I found it hopeful. I went through this horrible experience, and I'm like, the whole movie from the very beginning, I'm like, it just kept blowing me away. Like the ground kept, but by the end, I was like, and I thought to myself, this is some kind of masterpiece.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's funny because when I watched it for the first time and everything, it's like I was really blown away by the opening and stuff like that of the movie. And then when she's captured, And then you get the middle section, this long middle section, which is just brutal. It's real. I really started to hate the movie for what it was. I was like, oh God, it's this. And then it gets to the reason why the things that are happening to her are happening, and the motivation of the group that is doing things to her. And I'm just trying to dance around, even though it's an old movie. I'm trying not to spoil it. And then I at the end, I'm going, all right, I get it. I understand what these characters are doing and why this, because they're trying to answer the unanswerable question. And it was that knocked me on the floor more than the brutality throughout the entire movie. It's like that movie would just be a torture porn movie if it didn't have that ending, but that ending is so powerful and also beautifully presented to the audience in a very gruesome way. It's a gruesome beauty of an ending. It's just like, but you go, depending on what your beliefs are.
Well,
the strength of it either goes up or goes down, I think, for the audience.
To me, The Exorcist, in a way, is the same way because, I've always defended, you don't have to defend the movie because it's a classic, but if you think about what it's really about, it's about a man who loses his faith in God. Damien Karras, the priest, he wasn't there when his mother died. He's racked with guilt. And yeah, you've got the whole histrionics of the possession and all that, which is great. But at the end of that movie, and I'm not even a religious person, but here's what I think that from an artistic point of view, and I have read my Bible. I have a great study Bible, and I think that you can't understand Western civilization if you aren't familiar. Look, I'd love to make a modern movie about Job, but when you get to the end of The Exorcist, he finds his faith in confronting, call it Satan, the devil, Pazuzu, whatever. In my mind, The Exorcist is about the devil. It's not about it's not a minor league demon. It's the devil. Like Damien Karras says, the devil himself. And this man has lost his faith, but in confronting the devil, he has irrefutable proof that God exists. Because if the devil exists, God must exist. And he finds his faith again. Come into me. And when the devil leaves Reagan McNeil and Damien Karras throws himself out the window and sacrifices himself, saving the life of this innocent, I find that uplifting. I find that one of the great humanitarian moments in any movie ever. In The Exorcist. And in a horror film.
And the nice thing is, the two things. The irony is, whenever people think about The Exorcist, they think about Reagan, who is really a supporting character. The movie is called The Exorcist. The movie is about Damien Karras, through and through, like you said. And I think the other interesting thing is The Exorcist 3 doesn't, even though it continues it doesn't downplay anything The Exorcist did as far as lessening that message at the end of The Exorcist, which is a pretty tricky feat. And obviously Exorcist 3, which I know most of us all really like and everything, was not a success when it came out. But no Exorcist movie besides The Exorcist,
although it was number one the weekend it opened,
but none of them have ever been successful. It's so funny that they keep making Exorcist movies because the first one is so powerful. And none of the sequels have ever been successful. Really.
They lean into the wrong things. It's a radical misunderstanding of what that movie was about.
Come on, Rob. You and I both saw Exorcist the beginning in New Zealand. How could you say that Rennie Harlan was leaning into the wrong things when you got a young Father Merrin, like, Evil Dead squaring off with,
Yeah.
With CGI jackals and stuff.
I think, but what's interesting, I think all of us, and let me ask you this, Sarah, let's take it back. Being a horror, I mean, I don't want to call you a scream queen. I think that's
an ambassador. An ambassador.
An ambassador of horror. You call it that. But But you were somebody that didn't grow up with that. You're with
No.
somebody who is an ambassador of horror, an ambassador of the genre. And you're put in a position where it doesn't matter whether you're still you have an exalted position in the horror community. Call you a scream queen, call you whatever, and you didn't grow up with all this stuff, but you did have that great experience with your friends at that sleepover watching Halloween and The Exorcist. Which, boy, I wish that would have been the kind of place I would have liked to have been at that time. But I would ask you, now that you have Popeye the Slayer Man coming out, you have a new horror film coming out. How do you feel about the horror genre today? And when the world has surpassed what horror movies used to show us, does horror still have a place in entertainment?
Oh, absolutely. Always. It always will. I think especially, as times get, horror has always been a reflection of society. It's always had some sort of social commentary on what is going on politically or culturally or, humanitarianly. So we need horror, even going back to that's why I said horror's morality plays, even going back to before we had movies. The church would put on these morality plays, which were horrific. That would teach people, what was good and what was right and wrong and the good and evil. So I think horror absolutely still has a place in our society. I think in a lot of ways, we need it now more than ever, because I also feel like the horror genre is one of the places where maybe because it is not as accepted by the mainstream, there is more freedom to explore a lot of the different aspects of humanity and of the brutality and in the deep dark secrets and corners of everyone's mind. Like, you can do that in horror. It's like a safer space to do unusual things, where mainstream people might just be like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, it's a horror movie, they're just experimenting with X, Y, and Z, when there's really something that is to be said there. And it takes a while for people making those for them to start to be like, oh yeah, okay, there's something going on over here that we need to pay attention to. And then it slowly moves its way, and proliferates into other types of media. But I think horror is very powerful, and very, very needed.
I love that answer.
Let me ask you guys this, because we can get all very highfalutin about talking about, all these things that I agree with as far as what horror can do. But a lot of the time, and look, if you really look at it, and you can argue this against me, but some of our most successful horror movies are really there just to be thrill rides and entertain. I don't think there's a strong moral code. There's a very base moral code in something like the Friday the 13th series, but it is arguably one of the most successful series. That doesn't have a very strong morality pull, or doesn't have a very strong message. And I'm not assuming anything, but I'm thinking something like Popeye the Slayer Man and stuff like that. They're really just meant to be fun. And why we can always talk about The Exorcist and the martyrs and the hidden meanings and stuff, is that what's the value of just also doing films that are there just to entertain and thrill you and give you that 90-minute sort of roller coaster ride? I mean, to give yourself a break from the monotony of the day.
Well, I mean, we live in a construct, certainly. Just based on Puritans founding this country and everything that's transpired since then, and the civilization, quote unquote, that we're supposed to live in, and the ways that we're. But at the end of the day, we are animals, literally. At the end of it, we may be able to write, we may be able to create music or create art or whatever. But I think, to Dave's question with the Friday the 13th series as an example, I think it certainly is attractive to our baser instincts, which within society, a lot of those topics, that's not polite conversation. 13th movie, and you're going to have people that are having premarital sex and they're having fun doing it, right? Often, you know, in parts of this country, that's something that's very frowned upon. You know, people are very, very frustrated with a lot of things, and you know, murder is clearly illegal. But I think it's kind of cathartic sometimes to watch, you know, Jason throw some idiot through a window because, well, that jock is an asshole, and you know exactly that archetype. You had to deal with it in high school, right? And you know, we're always grappling with our own mortality. I mean, that's the scariest thing for all of us. You know, I think where we've gone with the society, and I'm probably going even further on this now, but the fact that people are just picked up, whisked away to put in an urn, and then that's it. And that's how we're supposed to deal with the loss of a loved one. Which I think is very, very unhealthy. You know, whereas within, like, you know, the Spanish Catholic culture, you know, death is something that people actually are part of. There's a tradition around that. It's not just whisked away and swept under the carpet. So I think, I think it's just, you know, we're able to like really experience a lot of things within the genre, even as something as fun as the Friday the 13th franchise, which I know a lot of people would be like, you think that's fun? And I'd be like, yes, I do. And if you don't, you're a prude. Yes. You know,
there's also a lot of escapism in horror, like Friday the 13th, Terrifier, like all of these things that like. And I do think that is part of why Terrifier has been successful. That added to it. That why, you know, Popeye, you know, it hit it, is because I feel like there's a lot of frustration and concerns with what is happening in the world right now. And you don't always want to watch a movie that is reflective of the potential horrors that are surrounding you. You want to do something that's different, that's going to take your mind off of it and entertain you, make you laugh, and like think of things in a different way. So I think there's absolutely that aspect of serves society in that way as well.
I agree, and there's an escapism to some of this the lighter fare of horror, and but funny enough, I think like it was interesting when there was going back to Friday the 13th and some of these other things, Terrifier, that series, not necessarily the first one, is there was a point where you were scared by the killer, and then there's a shift where then you start identifying and having your wish fulfillment with the killer. And I think ultimately that does make the movies less scary and thrilling, because to the people who are being preyed upon and you're not feeling for them, then Friday the 13th becomes this different thing where it's like you're be killed, and you're just trying to show a example of some of the most reprehensible kind of amoral people that you can find to just slaughter. And I think and that fills in some sort of need of an audience, like Sarah said, where they're getting out their own. We live in a slightly more evolved society now, where it's just not, let's go out and have a duel, on the Western street, or where in gladiator times. I mean, that's what Friday the 13th is. Friday the 13th is going to the Coliseum and watching, you know.
Well, right. I mean, but like
kill each other.
Some of those characters at some point, depending on how the protagonists are written, or how one-dimensionally they're written, or how, which of an archetype they are, the villain becomes the anti-hero, right?
Exactly.
And I think it's interesting when something like that happens with, to bring up the Friday the 13th series, or Terrifier as well,
or Halloween,
or Halloween. Well, I don't know. Michael's always
came back to the last ones where Jamie Lee Curtis came back. Then it shifted again.
Right.
It shifted back.
It shifted kind of, yeah.
Well, yeah, but going to save you from one of these killers.
Well,
it doesn't matter. It's not the playing field with people for the most part.
Today, not being for kids because of the darker themes in them. There was this cool video I saw by local script man on YouTube that talks about this. You might want to check it out, and you might like it. And then we also have Miss 50 and Still Metal. She always watches this show. Cheers to Dark Delicacies on their retirement. Yet a huge hole in the hearts of many. The four of you
absolutely.
being from the LA horror community, how are you coping with these major changes? Sarah, Anthrax's Blood Eagle Wings music video is still epic to this day.
Oh, thank you. I was in that one too. I'm only in that a little bit, but yeah, Dark Dells is irreplaceable.
We're losing a home.
Yeah.
We are.
I mean, it's more than just it's more than a store for so many of us, and so many of us throughout the years that it's been there, and hallowed everyone from Stephen King to Clive Barker have signed at Dark Delicacies in one form or another. I mean, the giants, and then yesterday or today, I guess it was today there, Michael Verratti did the last Blu-ray signing at Dark Delicacies that there will ever be. And, you know, Rob and I had an incredible signing for the Hills Run Red with Mike Doherty. He was doing Trick or Treat on one side. We were doing Hills on the other side. It was a huge, you know, the Tales of Halloween signing. I have so many good signing memories, but I right before I left to come to Malta, I probably went to my last signing there, which was for a book about VHS, you know, cover art and stuff like that. And there was Mick Garris, there was Ernest Dickerson, there was Adam Simon, who directed Carnosaur, there was David Scow, there was, you know, all these people there. And it was, it was great. It was really, it's sad. It's sad, but I know even though the store's gone, Dark Delicacies in one form or another will continue on.
No, I mean, I totally agree with everything that you said. I'm also just very thankful. I mean, it is the end of an era, but I'm very thankful that we had that era. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine the LA horror community without Dark Delicacies. All the relationships that were formed, you know, revolving around. And I never want to use the word store because it's so much more than that. And Del and Sue have always been just so supportive and lovely.
It just sucks that we're not going to have a place like that anymore, because there's no store in the Magnolia Park area of Burbank, California, or anything that can really take up the mantle that place was. And it's so rare to have. Look, it's rare to have a bookstore that's not a Barnes and Noble anymore. Yeah, that's actually decent.
Well, I have to tell you, I mean, when I first moved to LA in '88, there was a bookstore called The Change of Hobbit in Santa Monica.
I remember that.
It was a huge place, and when I moved there, I bought a lot of small press stuff, and they had to move. And in order to raise money for their move, they brought in 4 authors. They brought in Clive Barker, Ray Bradbury, Dean Koontz, and Robert McCammon. And you had to pay, they only let 100 people come in, and you had to pay $100. And that was to pay for their move. And the authors were there all day long, and they read and they would sign anything you wanted. And then A Change of Hobbit moved, and then they eventually closed down. And then author Arthur Byron Cover had a bookstore on why am I drawing a blank on Van Nuys Boulevard? Not Van Nuys. No, it was what's Van Nuys intersects with why am I drawing a blank on this? Our main thoroughfare. What is the main thoroughfare in the valley? Ventura
Are you talking
Boulevard.
Dangerous Visions?
Yeah. So Dangerous Visions was another, that was when A Change of Hobbit disappeared. I would come over to Dangerous Visions, and I bought, stuff like right here. I don't know. The all the Dark Harvest books I bought. And then that went away. And then Dark Delicacies was the last remaining genre bookstore in all of Los Angeles. And it lasted the longest. I mean, I can't tell you how much money I've spent in that store over the last 30 years. I mean, hardcover, first editions, whatever, a movie posters. Sometimes you'd flip through shit in the back of the store and be like, oh my God, I can't believe this is here. And you'd buy it. And seeing Del and his shocking white mane of hair.
Yes.
And again, it was part of that. There was no other community that had, there's no science. I mean, Change of Hobbit was first science fiction and fantasy. It was not horror themed, but the horror community has lost a thing. I mean, the genre community, we don't have that anymore. It's all going away. And one of the things that I've always found upsetting is that I always think about quality of life. Like Dark Delicacies was a place if I was having a bad day or something didn't go my way, like I was supposed to sign a contract and it wasn't going to happen, I would go to Dark Delicacies just to walk in there and feel better.
Oh, yeah. No, I get that.
It was and look through small press books I was going to buy and I hadn't bought before, or see what someone had brought in on consignment to sell or whatever DVDs they had, and talk to Del himself.
Mm-hmm.
And just hang out, and he knew. I mean, what was really interesting was that he knew, I'd been going in there probably for 30 years. I don't know when, before it's, it moved twice. And it was the kind of thing
Three
where
times.
Yeah.
three times. And to not have that, and I get it. I mean, I understand, but to not have that anymore is something that was, I think it was vital. It provided an elixir to so many people, so many creative people that were striving to make things that you could later go and sign at Dark Delicacies. And to not have it there it diminishes. I mean, again, it comes down to, does everything have to cost money? And I know it was, sometimes you just got to hang up the spurs, but there's nobody else to take up the slack, because the things that books themselves, or the things that we love are going away, and it's just and things always change, but the meaning, I found that the things that have given me sustenance, things that have fostered or fueled my interest, are going away. And it's harder than I don't have what I need. Like, sure, it's all external, like finding a slip-cased version of Robert McCammon's Swan Song, from Dark Harvest, be like, oh, I used to have this, I sold it, but I'd love to get it again. Sometimes Del would have it, and I'm like, oh shit, man, I'm going to buy that. There's not going to be a place in LA that has that, and that's kind of a bummer, because we needed these places. We needed these places in our society to give us that sustenance. Not everything should be transactional. And it's almost like, I love capitalism, but you also have to have the rest of things happening, such as national parks and such as stores that you can go to that exist. That I never thought Del was some money-grubbing guy. I always went in there and thought, he had to make money to stay open. But if he didn't need money, he would have stayed open anyway. And I know that's a naive, weird thing to say, but I always got the impression that he was there to serve, and he loved feeding off the creativity. It was a place that you went to fuel your own creativity by being a consumer of other people's creativity.
And having the store certainly fuels and has fueled him in his, because he's a writer. He's made connections and done anthologies himself now.
Yeah, I have his hardcovers.
And Del has a new book of his short story collection is coming out soon. Del Howison, for those who are interested in checking that out. And the Dark Delicacy anthologies are really good.
They're really good.
So I think it's been again, as the best example of the community is. It's always a give and take, and we get from him and he gets from us.
No, it's true, and but I just feel like these are because the world has changed and we have so many interesting things happening technologically. These are old school. The idea of going to a bookstore in general, they're just that is going away. I mean, when I read statistics that say that 60% of Americans read at a 6th grade or less level, it's pretty depressing to see that. By the way, few things we've got. 1001 Johnny also points out that it was Popeye who laughed. He was talking about what I was reading. That was Popeye's laugh. That was what it was. That I didn't see that. I apologize for that. Thomas Logan gets political and says, Sean, how is Trump going after establishment goons and their slush funds a fascist move? Or pushing for no income tax on folks who make less than 100K. Now, I would say, just before I let you answer that, Sean, I would say that's not all he's doing. And if you look, no president in modern history has destabilized our international relations and done things so quickly. Maybe it'll come out in the back end, well, say in 5 years or 4 years, that was amazing. But the problem is this shock and awe has made a lot of people very concerned.
I mean, this is a huge conversation. And
yeah, I know.
A whole lot to discuss. To answer pointedly that one specific question, how is it a fascist? How is he a fascist? Let me give you one example. The speech yesterday.
Oh my God.
The DOJ. Where Trump openly weaponized the DOJ to persecute his critics, meaning MSNBC, the press, i.e., your First Amendment rights for free speech. And he wants that not to be a thing. It's clearly happening. It's not something that is subtle by any means. So yeah, to answer your question, there you go. And I mean, if you have no idea in regards to like what fascism is or how it starts, Hitler's rise to power is a probably pretty good, primer on that. Which I don't know. Let's see. How did he go about things? Was that silencing the press? Was that silencing all critics? Was that taking control over every aspect of society? We're going to have the privatization of Social Security. How do you think that's going to work? Everybody's data has been mined and is in the hands of somebody who's not even within the government at this point. So I don't want to be in that position. And I really wish we as an American people could come together and stop being like, they're Republicans, they're Democrats, we're not going to talk. This two-party system hasn't worked for a long time. And I think it's time that we really started opening up some kind of dialogue in regards to people and humanism and human rights and coming together to, push that forward as opposed to being angry and scared and therefore screaming at each other.
Well, I have to chime in. That speech yesterday was one of the most terrifying things I've seen in my lifetime.
Uh-huh.
And I've joked on this channel for 7 years that one day somebody's going to find my Amazon buy list because it's now 25 years old, like what movies, including Martyrs, all the things I've bought from Amazon, books, music, movies, and I will be hauled away for the things that I've purchased simply because of other people deeming them.
Look. As artists and as horror writers, we'd probably all be hauled away just based on our Google searches alone. Specifically, given the fact that when you want to write authentically in regards to anything, you need to educate yourself on it.
Of course.
So, if you're writing about a pressure cooker bomb, well, how does that work? I don't know. I don't build them. but I probably Googled it at some point.
Yes.
And therefore was on a red flag list immediately. Does that mean I should be hauled off and away because I Googled that, or I Googled, does the human brain retain awareness after the head's been severed? And if so, for how many seconds? I don't, these are things I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but, I Googled it.
Well, that's, I mean, here's the funny thing that like I'm trying to exist. I mean, Americans voted, Donald Trump won the election, and I'm like, okay,
I don't deny that.
You live in a world, but what's interesting to me is it's not like in my mind, Donald Trump has been a public figure since the 80s. Like, I read The Art of the Deal. He was a huge pop culture figure 40 years ago. And it's almost as if America doesn't have a memory of those last 40 years. And it's bizarre to me. And what's happened politically and what's happened in our country, allowing Elon Musk, who is not an elected official, go into Doge and fire, or Doge going into all these different things and fire all these people. This has never happened in our nation before. This is all unusual.
Well, what's funny is, so Doge is using Musk's AI Grot in regards to figuring out what people to Doge, essentially.
Right.
Right. If you use that same AI and ask it, is Donald Trump a Russian asset? It'll tell you with probably 85% probability he is.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
I don't know. I do know that we're lacking a lot of common sense. And to go back to what you were saying, if Americans are reading at a 6th grade level, then I'm not super comfortable or certain that they have any idea of world history. And if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very
Single Strength 5 says many are against the upcoming AI revolution. Modern day Luddites. As AI subsumes menial jobs, won't creators have a unique opportunity in the coming age?
That's also a huge conversation, right? On Rob,
yeah.
Rob and I touched on that earlier today.
We did.
Just superficially, and I've got different. I think it's what it is and how it's used. Eventually, at the end of the day, I'm not happy that we've got these open systems that are just learning from a whole bunch of copywritten material and a whole bunch of people's work, whether that work has been published and monetized or not. That said, I understand the value of it as a tool as much as I understand like the value of Pro Tools in the music environment, going back to like the late 90s, mid 90s when that was introduced. Prior to that, musicians would have to pay a whole lot of money to go to a recording studio, to have an engineer, for session time. And it was money that they didn't have. And they were unable in that time to like learn how to, properly engineer because they're paying so much an hour. You got to get in and get out and you've got your 4-track demo or whatever, and it sucks, right? Pro Tools rolls around and we're like, oh my God, this is a wonderful tool for us. Did it put a lot of recording, smaller recording studios out of business once it proliferated? Certainly. Again, things changed per Rob, its growth. I think AI is different than that though. And I think it's, obviously a way more overreaching. That said, I can still see some uses for it, but I don't want robots writing human stories. That's kind of antithetical to the whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or creating human performances. I mean, we saw a little bit of that already in The Brutalist. Like, that's a very slippery slope. How far do we go down that road where they smooth out all of the individuality and just make everything like blank, like a blanket AI, however, you want it to be. And then we all just become this like robotic, faceless, assimilated Borgian society.
I think the thing is this. I think whenever we get these new things, at least in my opinion, I think, right now, all these things are the politics aside, they're all things that are just sort of like kids in a candy store right now. They're all new. They're all fun. I don't think we've really seen exactly where any of this is going to play out. And
No, yeah, I mean,
and today, so much of reaction is so knee jerk and everything that, we're instantly reacting. And I don't know if we, and I think we base a lot of the things about, what could happen by what we've seen in films before and stuff like that. And I think we always do the worst case scenario. Now, I agree. I don't want AI to write a book or something like that. But, I think if you look at these things as tools that can help and use them as tools, then they aren't necessarily a bad thing. They're never going to, at least in my opinion, for the individual at least, replace individual creativity and individual thought. Yeah. I don't think we're going to ever get to a point where everyone is just sort of this mindless zombie who is just going to use this stuff. But you use it as a, if you use it as a tool and everything, then I think there is some benefits for these things.
Here's what I think is the biggest danger is that it's going to convince people that they are creators, and they're really not. Because
but we've already been down that road. I mean, look at how many people become famous just
But I don't
TikTok and everything else, and all they're doing is lip syncing to someone else's song, and then they make millions of dollars. So that stuff before AI was already happening.
But I think that's a societal thing. I mean, on an individual level. I think if you now are going to sit down and say you want to write something, to sit and confront a blank piece of paper is already an existential crisis. Or
yes,
if you're not using a typewriter, if you're using a screen, and you have to think about like, what is your first sentence going to be? Now with AI, you can be like, write me a review of Martyrs. Write me a review of Martyrs from the perspective, I thought it was a transcendent piece of art and I really appreciated its hopeful ending. Write it from that perspective. Click, and it will write you that.
Sure.
And the thing is, you prompted it. It was your idea to say it had a hopeful ending or whatever, but you didn't have to come up with the first letter, the first sentence of that piece. And the first sentence of that piece means that you as a human being are going through all of these thought processes. Like how do you start your piece about Martyrs? Like if I were to write one, I would have said, against my better judgment, Patrick Luget's film Martyrs is a fucking masterpiece. That's my first line. AI is not going to write that line. And if I asked AI to write me a review, it would not allow me the joy and the creative moment of coming up with that perhaps line, whether it's good or not, because I had to think about it and come up with it myself. And what happens is,
you're going to be missing the mental exercise of it.
And I'll get a thing from AI. It'll be probably great, and I'll look at it, and then suddenly I start to think about, like what we were talking about. I'll rewrite it, and I can make it kind of more of my own. But I never got to come up with that, a zinger. No, I'm not saying that zinger first line I came up with is great, but I never got to come up with that. I never got to have that moment for my personal self where I have to examine my own thoughts. What did I think about it? And then
you wouldn't want to, right? Because your own thoughts are uncomfortable, and
that's just what I was going to say.
We're trying to make everybody full of comfort.
Yeah.
And that's
the other thing. But the other thing I think is this too. I think in some ways, again, we're potentially, now I'm not saying I'm the most informed about all this and everything, but I think potentially that we're sort of jumping the gun as far as being panicked about this stuff. I think you can start legitimately worrying about it if there is a bestseller written by AI.
Oh, there's already been one. We just don't know it.
Possibly, but when we know it and we accept it, then I think there's that's the conversation more.
When studios are openly creating feature films with AI and the film is released into a theater, and does remarkably well, and the audiences don't seem to care that it's an AI generated, and I'm not even going to refer to it as a work of art, but a piece of content, then we need to worry. Because
but I think the thing is too, I think studios and stuff like that, rarely are they looking at
But
most movies that they're putting out as works of art, and they are looking at as content.
But Dave,
that's more of the unfortunate thing.
We're not very far away from you can prompt, you can be like, look, we now live in a world where user generated content has supplanted. I mean, look on this platform right now, YouTube. There's billions of hours of video of user. Most people are watching other people on TikTok. On one hand, that's kind of cool that we're all watching other people conversing and sharing ideas. But movies themselves, you will be able to write a prompt. I want a Star Wars movie starring Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, Robert Redford, Paul Newman, and Sharon Stone as Catherine Trammell. And I want it to be set in the old Republic era, and I want it to be a story about how the Jedi uncovered the first Sith who had infiltrated the government. Click. And you'll wake up the next morning, and there's going to be a 2-hour movie. Now, whether it's good or not, it's going to have...
You'd be one of the first people out of curiosity to watch it. You might not like it, but you would watch it.
But what I'm saying is that when users can generate their own content, and they can just write their own movies, they're going to think that they've somehow created it. It was my idea. I made... And yet every frame of an AI-generated image is showing you something that wasn't what an art department did. That was the cinematographer picked that lens.
I agree.
The ramifications as far as what it means to our livelihood as the people who actually make movies.
That's
is frightening. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. And the thing is,
we're not far away.
And we need to worry about it before we're there, because once we're there, it's too late.
Well, that's the thing. Like, how life altering is this technology, and we can go back and look at nuclear fission at that time, at the A-bomb, how life altering was that, and obviously geopolitically ever since, and there was no guardrails set at that time. Do you know what I mean? It was like, oh, we've got to be in a rush to get this tech so we can finish this war before the Germans have it. Here we go, and we're going to use them now. There was no thought in regards to what was going to proliferate after that. This arms race that was going to jump, and the fact that we're constantly living every day in an existential crisis, because I don't know, we all might be dust in 5 seconds or not, right? You just got to go on and live your life as best as you can, because you can't live under that. But we still do live under that, and I think all of for Rob and Dave and I, and all of it, like, we've all just grown up through this process of, I think ever since we were teenagers or even younger, we were like, oh shit, we live under a nuclear threat. It's just become a normal thing. And that's a terrible thing to have to live under. That should not be like the normality, but it is. So that said, do we learn anything from that, as opposed in regards to, like, maybe we should set some guardrails up on this technology that we created, because we don't really understand this technology yet. And we don't understand what it's going to grow into. So maybe we should corral it a little bit and study it for a while before we just let it fucking run across the Wild West and fucking eat everything and fuck everything and screw up the ecosystem. You know what I mean?
Inevitable happens with the proliferation of this. And just talking in the creative fields, right? There's still going to be people who have the personal desire and everything to create stuff. Now, again, could it supplant what the studios are doing and stuff like that? But I mean, look, what's the reality is that, between 5 and 1% of people right now get to work in that studio system now. It's way less than it's ever been. So we're still going to be the independent, go-getters who are, working hard and striving for it, because there's the one thing the AI can't do is generate that inherent personal drive and love to want to do this. Because, and you ask anyone who is in this, who isn't just, making, but even when they started, even people who are in the studio system may be doing what you would consider the most, bass drivel around. There was a point where it was like they had this inner passion to create stuff, to make stuff. And I don't think that's going to go away.
Yeah,
well,
I
don't know. But if you don't live in a world where creative endeavors are something to be exalted, like, look, movies were, to me, the art form of the 20th century. They didn't exist. We didn't have a feature film until the 20th century. We didn't have the technology. It was something brand new. It combined all the art forms with the added benefit of technology, and it did something unique in that you had all people from all walks of life, total strangers, would sit in a grand movie house of 1,000 people, 1,500 people in the dark and watch something on a screen. And nobody cared about your political affiliation, your sexuality, your religious beliefs. When you sat in that movie theater, you were all the same. You all came to have this same experience. And whether we recognized it or not, the great thing about movie going was that it made a bunch of strangers, a bunch of human beings sit in the dark together, not even caring the differences between them, to experience art, en masse. And when you go to a museum, it's a singular experience. It was an art form. And what have we done? That experience changed the 20th century. Because what it did was you had entire countries showing up to go see movies. And then you had countries themselves, whether it was India or whether it was Russia, and Russia did a lot to Sergei Eisenstein writing his 5 levels of montage, adding to the art form. And now we're even taking away from that. All of these things that these guardrails, not just guardrails, but cultural things that were created, we're diminishing them all. Let's not go to the movie theater anymore. Let's just watch something on streaming. Everything is corralling us into these. Don't lust after a girl and try and take her out and have sex with her. You don't have to do that. Just go watch some girl on OnlyFans. You pay her some money and she'll do what you want her to do. I mean, we live in a society where all of the onus of living is being taken away from us, and we're just like, nope, we can just all stay at home, sequestered away, and not go anywhere, and not do anything, and not dream, and this is disturbing.
Well,
but Rob, I got to point out a couple things. Sorry, Sean. I just want to point out. One, perfect music. People still go to concerts. I think people will still go
from bands that were popular 50 years ago. Where's the new rock bands?
There are new rock bands. You're just not going out and seeing them. Like, go to the Whiskey. There's a band playing every single night.
I know.
Never heard of. So what I'm saying is, people still do communal things, and people will still communally go to movies. But the thing is, more disturbing in a way, not disturbing, but the thing that changed things drastically, I think, was the cell phone and everything else. That changed the way people. So going to a movie, a communal experience now, is not what it used to be anyway, because people are looking at their phone. They don't give a fuck. They think they're in their living room and everything else. And also, I got to point out, Rob, and I know you agree with me, the irony is you're talking about this communal experience, and you have a collection of movies unparalleled to anyone else that is for your individual use. How many people do you have come over and communally watch a movie with all the things that you get week upon week and everything else? So that, back in the 80s, started to shift all this as well.
Well, I would dare say that the popularity of movies increased in the home video era, at least in the beginning. It was something I could tell you when I started working.
Communal experience an individual one.
But I worked in my first video store when I was 13, and it was apparent to me, people forget this, but at the beginning of the home video era, Hollywood was, Steven Spielberg said famously, to see the blood and sweat I put into Close Encounters reduced to a cassette that can fit in the palm of someone's hand is very disconcerting. And yet, what home video did was it turned everybody into connoisseurs. They could have their own film festivals. And suddenly we had to wait until on our 3 networks we could see movies. With video stores, it made people movie fanatics, and they were more excited about movies that were coming out in theaters because they'd watched that director's oeuvre. They're like, oh my God,
But
it's the new Truffaut film is coming out.
You do see my point, though.
No, I do,
to an extent.
But I think that there are powerful forces now that are working against human interest.
Well, I mean, I think, there's so much.
The aliens are coming.
So much.
It's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, just not done with plants.
There's so much to unpack with this.
Yeah.
But I mean, just random thoughts. It really hurt my heart, and I'm sure it hurt everybody's heart here as well as Los Angelinos, to see a lot of negative and just for hate speech thrown at us during the fires and after the fires.
Yeah.
Because their outlook is, I guess we're not humans. We live in Hollywood, which in their mind is a fantasy land, and I suppose we're all rich. We all live in the Hollywood Hills.
Come on, man. We drink adrenochrome and eat babies.
Right. We all look down on them because it's a them then, isn't it? People are failing to see us as human beings, as people who are probably working, easily 18 hours a day to try to, exist in this industry that itself, which is collapsing. And that says something else in regards to how they view films. How many of these people even go to the theater at this point? Those numbers are dropping. And of those people, how many people stay to watch the credits, or do they even give a shit? Do you know what I mean?
Are people not going to movies more? Aren't we a year per capita making more money with movies than we have before? Billions of dollars?
Right.
No. Our box office is down. We're not back to pre-pandemic levels.
Yeah.
Well, we might not ever get back to that.
Yeah, but I'm saying that look, the fact is, the reality is, movies do not mean in our culture what they meant in the 20th century, because we have the rise of user-generated content. People would rather, the biggest subscription service in the world is YouTube. More people are subscribing, and by the way, YouTube this is an amazing place that we are right now.
And people said the same thing when film came and television came, and what it did to radio.
But the difference was that there was
evolving.
I see Dave's point.
Yeah, no, it's true. But we're seeing things. What we've never had before is our technology is now global. It used to be local. The movie business up until the last 30 years was really a domestic business. Hollywood serviced the English language speaking world, and it was mostly America. And now studios service a global, India, China, all around the world. Movies that's why a studio they're making films that are going to be seen by billions instead of millions. And that's another thing.
And the thing is, but that's the thing too. But some of that changed earlier on too, because there used to be a very prolific, say, Italian cinema that has since gone away and gone into television
it has,
and everything else.
Yeah, that's
at
true.
Least we still get an amazing diverse collection of movies from Asia. That India has given Bollywood. India has given us some amazing movies, but arguably RRR being one of the most amazing movies that I've seen, at least spectacle, entertainment wise, in many years. You get Godzilla -1. You're still getting stuff on a global level, but it's rare for America to have those movies cross over into America and be successful. That's the difference.
Right.
Because remember, what was the spaghetti westerns? They were Italian movies that got to come to America and become a thing.
Yeah, but it's just changed. I mean, we didn't have user-generated content. In the last 15 years, we have the rise of they do change. They do, and that's something. But the thing is, for us, what I see, especially with AI, when it comes to, look, if you're a performing artist, like you're in a band, unless nothing's really going to replace a band, you can't. people are going to want to go into a restaurant or something at 2 a.m. and have people smoking cigarettes and a jazz trio is playing, and you might have a glass of whiskey or something. That experience is never going to go away. People are always going to want that, and you're going to need that jazz trio to know how to play. I don't think that's going to go away. But the rest of it, I mean, so much of our art is when you have we have 3D printers now. What happens when we have 3D hands that can be programmed with the brush strokes of Rembrandt to you just say, I would like Rembrandt's version of a painting of Costco, to be ironic, and you can have some kind of a robot hand know exactly every brush stroke that Rembrandt ever used, because a quantum computer has quantified every single brush stroke from every painting, and it can be programmed into a robotic arm. How do we...
I think it's going to take a while for that to happen, Rob, because Mid-Journey can't even figure out how to make human hands look even remotely like human hands.
It's true, but I'm talking about 5-10 years.
Maybe Mid-Journey will catch up by that point. I don't know, man.
Okay, but Rob, let me ask you this: now I'm just being devil's advocate. What was Friday the 13th and all these other slasher movies just sort of their own fake version of Halloween, just taking that formula, taking that style, and just applying it to their own thing? Granted, it wasn't the same exact story. I mean, some did literally Halloween. They did a babysitter and a nut bag and stuff like that. But isn't that somewhat similar?
Well, here's the difference. The difference is you had a crew, a film crew, going out on a location and figuring out, okay, so Halloween you had Black Christmas, you had Halloween. Halloween was a huge success. So that paradigm, teenagers in trouble, teenagers being stalked by a killer, that's a genre. And then they figured
it became a genre after enough ripoffs.
Well, but it's like, so Halloween, suddenly Sean Cunningham's like, what other holiday or what other calendar date?
How can I jump?
Friday the 13th. But what's interesting, it's like he still had to come up with a story. So the whole thing about Mrs. Voorhees and the camp counselors that were fucking rather than watching out for her son, and Jason drowned and died. So then it becomes there's actually a psychological element. So suddenly, even though it's just you have a slasher paradigm, but the people that were working in it had to go, how can we make this unique? Like, we don't know anything about Michael Myers, but what if we think we have a serial killer or some supernatural entity, but it's really just a woman that has been driven insane by the needless death of her son by the people that were supposed to watch over. I mean, if you want to look at it, Friday the 13th has a lot of pathos in it.
Well, time out too, because ultimately what the Friday the 13th movies were at the base core by the original writer, who was probably a fan of Agatha Christie movies. So
sure.
He's just taking the modern murder mystery.
It was 10 Little Indians.
And goring it up. So again, Agatha Christie created the template for the modern mystery, just like Cubism, the first person who did it, then other people took that form and did it. So
but that's human history.
Well, exactly.
But the thing is, it was humans doing it. The difference is now you can just hit a button and you have a computer giving it to you. And what happens is human beings now sit back and we just sit back and be like, look what I did today. I prompted this thing. I'll tell you a terrible thing that I've done that I'm totally guilty of.
You use ChatGPT all the time.
No, not that. I don't use ChatGPT all the time. No, but I did need, like, for True Noir, we have actors. We didn't have a gallery shoot. We don't have any pictures. All I can do for Bartos is give him the actors 8x10s that we get, that they're approved images, and that's all we can use. And then we can Photoshop them, their heads on bodies, or do whatever. Well, I was like, I need a shot of these two actors face to face, and I went into Grok 3. I'm like, hey, can you make me? And I did that. I refined it.
You used it as a
I did
tool.
use it as a tool, but I used it to create two actors' faces whose images are approvable. Like they have to sign off on the use of their images.
Of course.
And
But
this
what I'm saying
created
is
images of these actors that don't exist, weren't approved.
You're using it in the. You're using.
I didn't
it
use
in
them,
the
but I
correct
mean,
way.
I have them.
It's a slippery slope. At the end of the day,
Of course.
are we going to be like, technological Luddites though? I mean, that's the thing.
No.
Like, it can't be all or nothing.
I mean, Rob, if you feel this way, just
but
pen and paper and a pencil.
There's some hypocrisy applied to it then too. And I mean, I will say it myself. Like I'm working on a pitch deck. Was working on a pitch deck a couple of months ago. Use Midjourney to do, to prompt for some, character imagery.
Yeah.
And is it a useful tool? Oh, very much so. Did I also realize that while I was doing that, I was taking an artist out of a job? Yes, I also realized that. However, I can't afford to pay an artist. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like this bad loop. I mean, like if I was sitting around here and I was just like, I'm independently wealthy and I need some imagery for a pitch deck, I'm going to call an actual graphic artist and be like, hey, I'm going to prompt you to make this and pay you the money. I would rather do that.
And that artist is probably going to use prompts and AI to help him do whatever it is. Yeah.
Be like, here you go. And I'm going to be like, God damn it. So, yeah.
Whatever
Listen,
I be way better than whatever AI did, though. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
We'll have more heart.
Wrap this up.
Tom, yeah, we'll wrap this up. We'll end this show. But Thomas Logan asks this, and this is interesting because it goes back to what we were talking about. He says, and he's trying to be provocative, let's discuss a Serbian film. All four of you chime in.
I never saw it. I
never saw it either. I didn't need to.
Purposely never watched that movie.
Okay, I would say this about a Serbian film only because I read the first time I saw a Serbian film, I'd never heard of it, and I was working at a company,
you
and
you had no forewarning. You were just like, I'm watching.
I had no idea. I had no idea, and it was like on the festival circuit, and a friend of mine contacted me, a European friend of mine, and sent me the film. Had a copy of the movie, and I watched it on my laptop, at the time. And when I watched it, it's beautifully made. It's really interesting, and it was so beyond the pale. But it was beyond the pale in a way that it was like, if you sat down and thought of what a human degradation could you come up with, but here's what was interesting, and watching it on a file that was sent to me from Europe, it made the whole thing even better. So I read an article with the director, and the director was talking about the Balkan conflict and how brothers were against brothers when what was cities that were. The signal keeps going. I think I mentioned a Serbian film and they cut me off, but it was really interesting. And the director said he was trying to convey the horror of the Balkans conflict through this kind of film. Bullshit. And then, the movie's so beyond the pale that it's.
I agree with saying, which I don't recommend anyone to watch. By the way, this is.
I know that movie. Yeah,
that movie. That movie is just exploitative nonsense, but they put a button on the end of it being like, this is for the Polyclass Foundation or whatever. And I'm like, oh, is it? I'm like, oh, you just gave us some like nearly X-rated after school special to warn us about stranger danger. And then you're going to try to like get out of that shit by being like, but it's for Polyclass. And I'm like, yeah, no, please stop. That was just gross.
You spent enough time already talking about.
Yeah, no, a Serbian film,
right
but here's a terrible thing. I own it. I have the uncut Blu-ray.
Are you gonna watch it again?
No.
Yeah, are you like it's?
No, and it was one of those things. It's like these exploitation movies come out. I feel I have to buy it and own it. Like I'm sort of getting over just to have it. Like it's almost this weird thing. First of all, nobody comes in here anyway. But if they did come in here, I don't want to disappoint somebody. I'm like, yes, I have that. I have all that jazz. I have whatever movie you want.
I don't think anybody's coming over, Rob, to ask if you have a Serbian.
Not yet.
I don't think that's a thing. Ever. I mean, like that would never be a question. I mean, maybe like, do you have a water? Like, can we, like it's a coffee?
I do not. I have never watched that disc. I've never put it in. I never probably ever will.
I mean, I understand.
I don't.
I understand why you would never watch it, but okay.
The thing. Yeah, the thing about it is, it's. Although what's really interesting about that movie is that it exists. That somebody tried to look.
I'm waiting for the Pixar version.
I haven't. I at least could get through that movie. There's a movie that exists that I can't watch all the way through, which is Gaspar Noé's Irreversible.
Oh, I just rewatched that, but it was the straight cut.
It was reversible.
I have that on that, but I can't. I can't watch the rape scene. I can't deal. I don't deal.
I fast-forwarded through that because it's way too brutal.
It's the worst thing I've ever seen.
It was interesting to watch the movie, like cut in a linear fashion. I don't think it improved it at all, but it was a different viewing experience. But yeah, like nobody needs to watch, Monica Bellucci get faux raped by her then husband and then kicked to death in a subway tunnel. Like it
for 10 minutes.
For like a solid 10 minutes. I'm like, I'm like, okay. I mean, Noe makes some decisions with his films. I'm going to give him that.
I love Enter the Void,
but
I love it.
I was like, I didn't really know even with the straight cut, I don't really understand the point of the film unto itself, aside from like it's brutal just for brutality's sake. I don't learn anything with these characters' journeys aside from sadness. And I guess the whole point of it is, revenge is pointless, but like even that doesn't sell to me at the end of the movie. You're just kind of like, okay.
Hey,
we can talk about that movie for a long time. I had forgotten.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
Let's all just go watch Irreversible now, and then we can talk about it another time.
No, let's not watch it.
Because it's time to go, Rob.
All right. Well, Dave, since you're here, we'll end the show, but we're not going to end the show without reminding everyone that on March 21st, Popeye the Slayer Man opens. It's available on VOD. Indie horror made with love and care, but a craven, idea to make money off a lapsed IP or whatever, lapsed copyright notice, but made with love. Sarah's in it, and it's probably a lot of fun. I've only seen the trailer and the opening scene.
It is
fun. It is, it's fun. And the people that made it, we're doing something clever and fun. And look, we've seen examples of it, and I want to thank both Sean for becoming my new co-host of the show, because Dave Parker can't be bothered, and his lovely fiancée Sarah. Can we call you? I said fiancée.
You did.
Following you up. So I just want to say it was great to have both of you here, and congratulations on the movie.
Guys.
Congratulations to Dave Parker for also working on an incredible secret film in Malta, which was a James Bond location. Very, very proud of you, Dave. You're not fired.
Congratulations to you, Rob, for wrapping up the show and not getting sloppy.
Oh, well. I don't have. I've been drinking water in addition to alcohol.
The other thing, yes.
But thank you all for being here. This was great Midnight Metal, and I'm glad to be supporting the film. And hopefully everybody can go out.
Having us. This was fun. This
was fun. Sarah, it was a great pleasure to interact with you. It was very nice.
Yeah, you as well. It's been
and
a
Dave,
bit. A while.
Dave, stay. I mean, you got to. Can you get back in the country? That's the real question. You never know. They're going to look at your passport. Do you want to?
Yeah, you might already be in the right place, Dave.
I might already be looking at real estate.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably have a great tax incentive, right? Stay there and do
40%.
Does that apply to post-production?
Absolutely.
I'm coming. Let's go.
Let's go.
And I want to thank everybody for generously supporting this channel via Super Chats and tips. I want to thank all of our members. I want to thank my moderators. Tom Jr. Jackson, thank you for being here. Tom Jr. Jackson says that a Serbian film and Mary Poppins make a family night. No, don't even say that. You shut your mouth. Not order? Good. Dieter Bastian's in the chat.
Okay.
And
It's a
Dieter
question.
Bastian wants to remind everybody that Rennie Harlan shot Cutthroat Island in Malta.
Yep.
So
All right.
there you go, Dave. So thank you to all. And I will let you all go. And we will see you later today at 11 o'clock a.m. for Let's Get Physical Media, episode 190, where we talk about Criterion announcing William Friedkin's Sorcerer in 4K. Very exciting.
In 4K. And the Beyond,
but
you got to talk about that too.
That's all we're talking about the Beyond. It's coming out. Grindhouse releasing 3,500 copies. Go order at their website. So, and thank you all for being here. This is the end. Sean Decker, Sarah Nicklin, the end of Midnight Metal. All right, kids, we are ended. Thanks for that, you guys. That was a lot of fun.